Entire line of severe thunderstorm warnings starting to move into the WHS 11 viewing area. And we've got this first line that's not quite as strong, but it is putting down some strong winds off to the south and some heavy rainfall and the potential of some flash flooding around the area. Between these two lines, briefly, you might see the sunshine break out, and that certainly is not good news. And there have been several tornado warnings around the Evansville area. This is just a potent, powerful storm system. Category 1 hurricane force winds not out of the question. Once these two lines of storms move out of here, let's say by around 3 or 3:30 this afternoon, then we're going to be dealing with straight line winds that have nothing to do with thunderstorms. And that's why we have a high wind warning all the way until 10 p.m. Wind gusts could still be over 60 miles per hour, again, without thunderstorms, all the way through this evening time, causing some additional power outages, some additional tree damage. We have had 7 wind advisories, including some high wind warnings this winter. That has done some damage to some trees. Also, the root systems in these trees around the area are soaked, and so it's easier for these trees to topple over. Travel is going to be very difficult with the winds gusting, again, anywhere from 50, 60 plus miles per hour. If you're driving anywhere, east and west to east, especially like a route like 64 or the Western Kentucky Parkway or the Bluegrass Parkway, that air is going to slam into you up from the south. Any kind of high profile vehicle, an SUV, a van, semi is going to be in trouble. And it's going to be very difficult to travel. We have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings, and they're moving about as fast as I've ever seen. Reported here, these couple cells moving northeast at about 80 to 90 miles per hour. So you can only guess the wind speeds that could be underneath these thunderstorms. And they are tapping into strong low-level winds, jet stream right above us. And so there is no shortage of energy and really powerful winds that these storms are going to be using. So here is a track that Storm Team meteorologist Alden German just put on here, heading towards the Hodgenville area with perhaps some destructive wind gusts. You'll want to just be seeking shelter as this moves through your area at around 140 to 150 into Greensburg, Kentucky at around 12:56 Central Time, coming up to around 2 p.m. Eastern Time, into the Bardstown area at about 2 o'clock. Lebanon on there at around 2:15. Now, I do want to emphasize, give yourself a good 15 minutes on either side of that number. Sometimes these squall lines, these storms will bulge out, and there'll be bow echoes that can hit you sooner than some of these estimated times. So this is kind of a rough estimate. We just want to get you prepared when these storms are going to be heading your direction very rapidly. So the strongest storms, the immediate threat, just to the southwest of Louisville right now. This is line 1, by the way, and then we have line 2 that's just out to the west, and very strong winds. If you want to put it into reflectivity, or I mean velocity mode here, Alden, we can just kind of give you an idea of some of the wind speeds up aloft and see what we're looking at. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell, but there's 85, that pixel showing 102 miles per hour. So this is the radar beam from Louisville hitting raindrops that are moving that quickly. So that's the kind of air that these storms are dealing with, 87 gusts. Now, not all of that wind speed is making it to the ground. This is likely about 3,000 feet, so not actually all that high above treetop level. So near Munfordville, not far off the ground, you're talking winds over 100 miles per hour in that little spot right there. So sometimes, not even a thunderstorm, just a shower can channel that wind right to the ground and bring those jets right to the ground and cause some damage. So really strong wind speeds right off the deck here, 100 mile per hour speeds. So yes, we are talking hurricane force winds not far off the ground, and that's, again, what this storm system has to use, unfortunately, for our area. Our threat is going to continue until about 3 o'clock for most locations, perhaps just a little bit longer for areas farther northeast, up around Madison and North Vernon. This is the main threat that we need to get through here as far as destructive, really high destructive winds and the tornado threat. Once that moves on by, we still have a high wind issue that we're going to be dealing with. Let's go ahead and put on the alerts map. We do have a tornado watch for most of the area until 5 p.m. I think the tornado watch will probably get canceled maybe an hour or so early for our area. Once those storms race off to the east and northeast. And then we have some flash flood warnings that we have been dealing with as well. So a lot of different colors here. Orange is your severe thunderstorm warning. Green is your flash flood warning. And then red is your tornado warning out towards Evansville right now. These flash flood warnings along Interstate 64 into Metro Louisville have been extended several times thanks to the heavy rain that's been moving through the area. We've had several reports of flooded roads over southern Indiana, especially Du Bois County. We saw some reports of over 4 inches of rainfall. We just had a big batch move through. And then you've got this little brief dry spell. Please do not let your guard down if you see that sun come out very briefly, because that is what's next. And that is the strongest line that we're going to be waiting for to move into our area. You can see how large that severe thunderstorm warning is. You don't see that very often. So this is about halfway through that severe thunderstorm warning. I would say in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we will see that severe thunderstorm warning be expanded to the east to start covering areas in our viewing area just off to the west of Interstate 65. So right now, damaging winds are possible around Elizabethtown. Notice that deep color right there is putting down some very heavy rain, potentially, again, some damaging straight line winds. And also this severe thunderstorm warning has a tag on it that says tornado possible. There could be, at a moment's notice, a little spin-up tornado that can't be ruled out in any of this activity. The parent low-pressure storm system, the center of the low-pressure storm system, is right about here. So these lines are swirling into it. Again, it reminds you of kind of a Category 1 hurricane, and this is probably a top 10 strongest storm system that's ever crossed through our region on record. So very serious situation. Yeah, Alden, go ahead.
I want to just relay a couple of things I'm reading here in chat. You were talking about Du Bois County earlier. National Weather Service in Louisville is mentioning that a severe thunderstorm warning will be coming here within a little while for part of our southern Indiana counties. That includes Jasper. Also, I was just told that Reed Yaden is actually underneath that storm near E-Town right now, and I want to get back in a little bit closer with that because it does appear as if maybe we're seeing some other signs of rotation with it. I'll get in just a little bit closer down here so we can do another analysis of some of those wind speeds. We're looking at the live picture of Reed Yaden right now. He's pulled off to the side of the road there. You can see those sheets of those curtains of rain that are coming down, traffic moving very, very slowly, and we're going to continue to see those exceptionally high wind speeds coming as well. Now, one good thing about this event that we have right now is that there is virtually no hail. We're not really looking at a hail scenario here. If there is any hail, it's fairly small, less than less than 1 inch in diameter, so smaller than the size of a quarter, but still moving quite quickly. We'll go, in fact, we can actually talk to Reed Yaden really quickly. Reed, if you can hear us, what exactly have you been seeing out there?
Okay, this is the most wind we've had here. We're getting some 35, 40 mile per hour gust. You're looking at, this is the off-ramp coming off of the Lincoln Parkway, turning onto Highway 31. See the wind kind of blowing sideways here. We're right under a stronger cell. This is not warned at the present time. You did a good job pulling it up on radar, and you had a good view of it there. It's laying down some very heavy rains, and our winds are gusting up to, I would estimate, 35 to 45 miles an hour here at the surface at the present time. Now we're right in the warmer air sector. Temperature here has jumped up to right around 61 degrees and holding there. So you can see what it does to visibility too. If you're driving and you get under one of these cells, your visibility is going to drop. Winds are blowing, and it is going to make it very, very perilous to drive. So the big thing to do is slow down. The way these winds are blowing here, it almost looks like what you see in a tropical situation, seeing some winds blowing sideways. And we're getting a steady state wind here of 35 to 45 miles an hour here. We're right at Elizabethtown in Hardin County, and we're going to continue to stage here for the time being and keep up with what you're doing, and also we'll watch radar down here, make a decision on where to head next. For now, this is Reed Yaden in Hardin County. back to you with our continuing coverage.
Thank you, Reed. Yeah, it looks like it's coming through horizontal. And yeah, we've been talking about the comparison between the storm system that we have out there and tropical storm force winds, very strong tropical storm force winds, or even like a Category 1 hurricane. So right now, as Reed was mentioning, at the surface, 30, 40 mile per hour winds, but there are times that we can get even stronger winds down to the surface, and that's what we're definitely going to have to watch out for. So Reed down here around Interstate 65, down in Hardin County, not too far from the Hodgenville area. So again, just off the ground, 60, 70 mile per hour wind gusts. This is a look at the wind speeds with Doppler radar. Let's go ahead and go back and we'll go to reflectivity, and you're seeing a few lightning strikes. Sometimes we don't even need lightning. We don't need to technically call it a thunderstorm to have damaging wind gusts. There could even be a tornado without lightning with this kind of storm system. So this is a look at the motion of the storms that we have now. So as I mentioned earlier, we now have a very large severe thunderstorm warning that covers into Breckenridge and Grayson counties, and that is until 1:30 Central Time, 2:30 Eastern Time, because of that line right there that's had a history of putting down some damaging wind gusts. It is
80
moving
mile per hour wind gusts as well, Ben, looking at the warning text here, and it explicitly states not just 80 mile per hour wind gusts, but it does mention that these are destructive storms. So you can get straight line wind damage. We saw this a few weeks ago where those straight line winds, they can just find a little crack underneath a roof or somewhere and potentially blow it off. If you have winds these strong, it also can bring down power poles and power lines, which results in power outages. And these storms are still booking it. And that's really a bit of an understatement. According to this text, I'll put a track on this here momentarily, moving to the northeast at 80 miles per hour. So exceptionally fast, which does not really give you very much time to seek shelter. And even though we currently don't have any tornadic winds with this, you still want to be inside. You still want to be in the most interior portion of whatever building that you're in. And the event, the unlikely event, and hopefully an event that doesn't happen, that you see some of that straight line wind damage occur to your home or to your mobile home, which is also, even like a tornado, not a safe place you want to be, because if those winds are strong enough, it can just topple over that mobile home like it's a can.
No doubt, and treat that like a tornado warning right there, because this is a different situation today. This is a storm that we don't see very often at all. I'll keep mentioning it, top 10 strongest storm systems that's crossed our region. So if you have a severe thunderstorm warning that goes off, you might end up hearing a tornado siren because of the severe thunderstorm warning. Again, different situation. Typically, the National Weather Service will issue a severe thunderstorm warning if the winds are expected to be over 60 miles per hour. Well, the high wind warning that we have today through 10 p.m. covers all the way up to 70. So the National Weather Service has said they're not going to issue severe thunderstorm warnings until they expect wind speeds over 70 miles per hour. That can easily do barn damage, roof, knock over sheds, throw trampolines around, but in some cases might even do some damage to your home, to your vehicles as well. And it's super dangerous to be out driving in this. That is the main threat, the main show that we're watching, which is going to cause, unfortunately, some widespread power outages. I want to give you a little perspective as well. 15 years ago or so, 2008, September 14th, we had the remnants of Hurricane Ike move through our area. That was about a 2-hour period when we had sustained winds at around 50, 55 and some wind gusts to 74. Not a lot of difference between those scenarios right here. We certainly hope we don't have the amount of power outages we had with Ike, which left some without power for a week or two and caused, I think, 600,000 power outages in the state of Kentucky. I don't think it will be necessarily that bad. No two storm systems are the same, but this has a lot of power to it. Again, hurricane force winds are possible along this squall line that is connected to an incredibly strong low pressure storm system. There are some embedded tornadoes. There is now a report of a tornado on the ground, it looks like, confirmed near Evansville.
That's a radar confirmed tornado in that area, and also fairly recently they just issued that new severe thunderstorm warning that does include parts of Du Bois and Perry County for 70 mile per hour winds. So Ben, we'll need to watch that tornado warning fairly closely, and in fact let's just go ahead and do a quick little analysis of it, because it's very close to our viewing area.
And not only this one, but anywhere along that line there can be these spin ups and tornadoes. I do also want to emphasize that Straight line winds at 70 or 80, same as an EF0 tornado. That's why I say treat these warnings, whether it's a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning, treat it like a tornado warning. Get to your safe place. Very, very strong destructive winds possible along this entire line. Right behind me here at the moment, yes, we have some gusty winds, heavy rain with this initial line along and east of I-65. Not our main threat, but still some strong and isolated damaging winds are possible with that. In between these lines, we've seen breaks in the clouds. That's not good. It makes the air unstable. It gives fuel for the storms. And as Alden is putting a track on this line is moving east and northeast at around 70 to 80 miles per hour. It's very thin as well. If there's any good news here, your warning will not last very long. The winds are going to slam you you're going to get the very heavy rainfall, but it may only last around 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's going to zip on out of here. So we're going to do our best to let you know when you have that threat, but also let you know when it's clear of that danger from the severe storms. Right behind that line, though, I want to emphasize that the winds here are going to be around 50, 60 plus miles per hour through this evening. And that could still cause some damage and produce some very, very difficult driving conditions. So here's the track. We'll leave this up for a second here. Yeah, we'll go back to it here in just a second. This is the current wind gusts at 48 in Elizabethtown, near 50 miles per hour there, 32 in Litchfield. Again, we'll put another track up. We'll leave it up here for a little bit so we can have some time to check out where that squall line is going and the time periods and when you can expect it. Obviously, that's most important. We want you to be prepared, have the time to put your family severe weather safety plan into action. So this is a squall line tracker, pushing it off to the east and northeast at around 70 to 80 miles per hour. And so heading towards the Jasper area at about 2 o'clock Eastern, Litchfield just after 1 p.m. Central Time. So that's coming up in about 20 minutes. Heading toward Brandenburg at about 2:25 Eastern, Elizabethtown right after 2:30, into Louisville Metro. That's been a pretty consistent time frame here at about 2:45 into downtown Louisville. But also at the same time, some portions of the line can punch ahead Boeing Echo segments, and that can produce damage and also pick up the speed a little bit. So definitely be prepared not long after 2 o'clock for the storms to move into Metro Louisville. Again, right now we're coming up to 150. So right around 2:30, it looks like coming into parts of Metro Louisville. This is a huge severe thunderstorm warning that covers Du Bois, Perry County in Indiana, Breckenridge, Grayson, western sections of Hardin County. Not going to take all that long for something moving about 80 miles per hour to cross our entire viewing area, which stretches out from Jasper, Indiana, Du Bois County, all the way to Frankfort. Our viewing area goes from Adair County and Columbia, Kentucky, all the way up to Seymour. So again, this is not going to be a prolonged severe weather event as far as the storms. But later today, when we start WHS 11 News at 4, into 5, into 6, we're probably still going to have some reports of some wind damage thanks to just the powerful nature of this storm that is crossing the region. So this is what we have at the moment. And if you want to switch back over to the alerts, just kind of clean up the map, kind of simplify some things. Again, it looks like the good news here, the flash flood warning has been canceled for Metro Louisville, Floyd, Clark, Harrison. It continues here around Crawford County, where there have been some reports of some road closures. You got another band of some heavy rainfall that's going to move in here shortly. Severe thunderstorm warning for Eastern Hart and the western sections of Greene County. And then you've got that very large severe thunderstorm warning just off to the southwest. So that's the guy we're waiting on right there. Let's load up Futurecast and see how it's handling this situation, Alden, and we can, in a way, give you a clear from the severe weather. So this is at 2 p.m. I like how it's handling it. As we saw on our track in real mode on Max HD radar, it looked like it was going to be about 2:30, 2:45 before that squall line moves into Metro Louisville. If you want to push that ahead another half hour, an hour, Look how rapidly that line is starting to move out of our viewing area, up probably around North Vernon, Madison at around 3 o'clock or maybe 3:30. And then some just leftover showers on the backside of that system. Also take note, let's go ahead and back that up a couple of hours, Alden, back to where we're at now. You're going to have a surge of this warm air out ahead of the squall line. Temperatures in the upper 60s to near 70 degrees. It's been a pretty cool day for many locations, but a surge of that warm air, and then right behind that squall line in that front, here comes really gusty winds, and then a drop in temperatures by about 20 degrees. So 3 o'clock, still warm, but then notice here around 5, 6, we plummet down to the 40s, so chilly conditions on the way for this evening. You factor in winds, 50, 60, it's going to feel a lot colder than that. Not that we should really be venturing out very much with those really gusty winds here this evening.
Hey, Ben, we still have Reed Yaden is now headed on the Western Kentucky Parkway. He's headed toward Litchfield, where they have that strong line approaching them. We also have Christina San Juan. She's in the Beast. She is at a flooded roadway on Frankfort Avenue here in the metro area, if you'd like to go and speak to either one of them.
Yeah, it looks like we're with Christina San Juan. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, hey Ben, hey Alden. So we are on Frankfort Ave and this road is completely flooded out. We have been sitting here watching probably a dozen cars try to make it through, and they will either try to just go ahead and make it through, which obviously is something we should never do, because it was probably the 10th or 11th car that actually stalled out right in the middle there. There's several inches of that standing water as rain still continues to come down. But so this vehicle, it was a Chrysler sedan, we believe. Here I'm with photojournalist Jessica Farley. She completely got stuck. Her engine started smoking, and there was just nowhere that she could go, as she was just kind of stuck right there in the middle. And actually there was another gentleman here that went and just pushed her out of there, and that was the only way. So now she is actually several yards behind us, trying to call emergency officials here to go ahead and give her a tow, because now her car is completely inoperable at this point, just because she took that chance and failed, quite frankly, to go across the flooded water. That's why we always do say that phrase, turn around, don't drown. Many folks have, to their credit, turned around, and many have tried to go around. You can see the tire tracks as I pan over with our Beast camera over to the right. Just that was not there before. That's folks that are trying to avoid the flooded roads, but there's also lots of ponding on the mud there as well. So it's just not worth it to take that risk. As you can see right now just ahead of us, that's exactly what we recommend, is just turning it around and not trying to take that chance. Unfortunately, though, like we've seen, lots of folks have been taking that chance. This is probably the worst issue that we have seen, as we've been kind of all over southern Indiana throughout the last couple of hours, as well as just driving around Metro Louisville. We were on River Road for a while, and there was just a lot of ponding. I want to call it more pooling, kind of to convey the severity of the situation. It wasn't just little muddy puddles, but there was actual pooling there that we had to slow down for on the roads, and just a lot of water on the roads that you can't tell just how deep it is. But yeah, so we are going to continue monitoring this situation, and we will send it back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Christina. Unfortunate, an example there. You just don't know how deep it is, and then you run into it, causes problems with your car. It's going to cause problems with your wallet trying to fix that. So you just avoid the flooded areas altogether. We say it so many times because of this reason. Plus, we don't need emergency crews having to get out there and do high water rescues in a severe weather situation, and when winds are going to be staying up around 50, 60 miles per hour all day. So 1 to 2 feet of flowing water can wash vehicles away. 6 inches can knock you off your feet. Please keep the kids that are at home e-learning away from any of those flooded waterways. Very dangerous situation. And don't go in those basements until you know for sure that the electricity is off, of course, if your basement is flooded. We also have our Storm Team meteorologist Reed Yaden out, I believe, heading down the Western Kentucky Parkway to confront that severe thunderstorm that's heading their direction, along with storm chaser John Humphreys. Reed, tell us what you're seeing so far and what your plans are.
Well, okay, what we see right now, Ben, a little sunshine here and some blue skies. That's just ahead of us, but you look off to the left, though, it's another story. That's the storm that we're going to encounter here as we head. We're about, I'd estimate, about 15 out of Litchfield right now. We are in the severe thunderstorm warned area. As we were leaving Hardin County, a little wind field developed there. We looked at it on radar, and we were getting some good 45, maybe a couple of 50-mile-per-hour gusts. So for the moment, we're out of the rain, not getting much wind here, but that's going to change because that system is moving rapidly toward Caneyville and then on to Litchfield, and we're going to encounter it there, and we'll move on from there. Once we get that one through, we'll see what develops. Reed Yaden in our extreme machine here. We're in Grayson County now, in the severe thunderstorm warned area. We'll check in with you again shortly.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reed Yaden, along with Storm Chaser John Humphreys. And that's a really unique thing with this storm system. Right behind squall line number 1, that's kind of near Interstate 65, is that clearing we just saw live with Reed Yaden out there. Don't see it very often. This is a blue sky. This almost reminds me kind of like when you're inside the eye of a hurricane, although this is windier than the eye of a hurricane. And then here is the next batch that's going to be moving our direction that, again, Reed is heading toward and hopefully staying safe as he moves towards it. So this is a clearing, which is not good. The sunshine makes the air unstable. It provides fuel for this line that has reports of 80-mile-per-hour winds and is racing to the east and northeast at around 70 to 80 miles per hour. We don't get to say those numbers very often whatsoever. This is going to be moving into Louisville. As you can see, it's getting a lot closer at around 2:30. Right now it's 1:50. It's not going to take long to cross a lot of these counties. We're going to see this severe thunderstorm box right here, this huge area, continuing to be expanded our direction. There is still a tornado warning possibly on the ground there just north of Evansville. That happens quite a bit when you're very close to the center of low pressure because there's so much swirl and rotation and twist in the atmosphere when you're very close to the center of the storm system. Yeah.
I want to draw your attention to some of these new cells that we have developing as well, and these are forming in areas where we have some of that extended sunshine. So even though we've been talking about the second line, we can still have something develop in that gap in the meantime, so that's why we're going to have to keep an eye on this. None of this is severe at the moment, but near Valley Station, just across the river there to the west of Louisville, we're starting to see some new storms beginning to pop up fairly quickly, and they could continue to grow upstream as they continue to push off to the northeast fairly quickly. Don't have any new warnings in the south of the parkways there in the Hodgenville area, just some very, very heavy rain. And those current severe thunderstorm warnings that we've been mentioning are still in effect as well. I think that tornado warning up north of Evansville has been, that area has been weakening because I haven't seen any discussion of that being continued to, excuse me, I've not seen any discussion about expanding that warning further to the northeast.
Can you try to go to Evansville radar, which is a little closer to that line, and just kind of inspect some of the wind speeds? So the Doppler radar, using the Doppler technique here, can see the wind speeds as we switch it over, and it looks like, you know, there's just different areas that could be pretty bad. I kind of want to look down here with what's heading our direction off to the east and southeast. And we'll be able to inspect that a lot better once it gets closer, but you might be able to get a few pixels in there. We're able to click on the radar and see the individual wind speeds of the raindrops. That's a 100-mile-per-hour raindrop there, and over 90. And you can see Caneyville, Short Creek, Rough River, Grayson County. All that is just off to the west of your area. So no, not necessarily we're going to get 100-mile-per-hour winds, but that's the wind speeds that are just above us, just above the tree tops, that can occasionally come down and produce some pockets of damaging winds. So really, really powerful system. That's why we're giving you the earliest alert here. Really good heads up because it's racing very rapidly to the east and won't be long before it moves through the city of Louisville and many areas along Interstate 65 as well, and moving into the central portion of our WHS-11 viewing area. So this is the wind speeds. It's a little different than the radar you're probably typically looking at. But we can go back to the reflectivity. There's just a little bit of lightning. I mean, these aren't powerful lightning factories here. They're more wind driven, but occasionally there are some areas of lightning strikes. So this is not very far away from you guys. Let's go ahead and put a track on that to let everybody know where it's heading. And it's going to be moving into Hardinsburg, I'd say, in the next 10 minutes. Litchfield, you've got about 10 minutes. Tell City, it's right on your doorstep now. And right around the Horseshoe Bend, Leavenworth, not far from you. Heading toward the Ready area at 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern, into Hardinsburg, around 1:05 Central Time. So we're only talking about 5 or 10 minutes, like I just mentioned. Into Leopold at about 2:10 Eastern, into Litchfield at about 1:10, 1:15, into the Tar Heel area at about 1:15, Irvington at about 1:15 Central Time, and Lodale at about 2:20 Eastern Time. So rapid moving squall line heading our direction with the potential of hurricane force winds. So Category 1 hurricane, 74 miles per hour, and that's the kind of energy these storms are packing in what we're watching. If we want to clean up the map once again, just kind of retool here, we've got a tornado watch until 5 p.m. for the bulk of our viewing area. It does not include at this time areas up around Highway 50 in Indiana, including Bedford over towards Brownstown, Seymour, North Vernon. Not in that tornado watch, but everybody else is until 5 o'clock. I think that squall line will be out of here by around 3 to 3:30, and then we'll be able to get rid of the tornado watch. Now, as far as the warnings that we have, we still do have a flash flood warning for English and out towards Jasper. I do want to emphasize that as far as severe weather threats from thunderstorms go, flooding causes more deaths than lightning or tornadoes. It has the most danger of any hazard from thunderstorms, and it's not typically what you think. It's just the fact that too many people try to cross flooded roadways, and it causes a big danger. So please avoid any flooded roads. So very large, severe thunderstorm warning. North of Evansville is still that tornado warning that's just out to the west of Du Bois County. That is the main event that we're going to be tracking here over the next probably hour or so. And then once that's through, we still have the high wind gusts. If we want to go back to Futurecast wind gusts, and then Futurecast rainfall, Alden, we can kind of plan ahead and give everybody an idea of what to expect.
Really quickly, Ben,
yeah.
Regarding that tornado warning you mentioned, there has been a damage report from that out of Evansville. Again, this is not in our area, but just to give you an idea of what we are looking at with this line, they just received a report from the St. Joseph Church at St. Joe Road and St. Wendell Road on the west side of Evansville, if you know that area, reporting that the church roof is gone. They're also continuing right now that severe thunderstorm warning that we've been talking about for portions of Breckenridge, Grayson County, as well as Hancock, Hardin, and Ohio counties until 2:30 Eastern Time because of the threat of 80-mile-per-hour winds that they are calling destructive.
Very good information there. Thank you, Alden, for passing that along. So Alden is looking at the Weather Service chat where reports go into it. So we're going to pass those along when we can. And you can always give us reports too. We are also live streaming on YouTube and our Facebook streams with Storm Team meteorologist Sam Gabrielli. We've got crews out. We've got Storm Team meteorologist Reed Yaden out on the Western Kentucky Parkway to head into that storm with Storm Chaser John Humphreys. We've got Christina San Juan out in our First Alert Storm Team, the Beast, checking on some flooding. Look at the wind gusts. This is 4 o'clock, so the thunderstorms are gone. Thunderstorms are off the table. We're not talking about that anymore. This is just the high wind gusts that are going to funnel in behind the cold front, and we could see those wind gusts around 50 to maybe 65 miles per hour. Typically, when you get around 60, we're talking some significant tree damage and the potential for more power lines that could be brought down and more power outages. So I think over the next 1 to 2 hours, we're going to be checking on LG&E and different power companies, and unfortunately probably seeing some of those power outages across the area. Hopefully it'll stay limited, but we're going to help you get through it here on air, online, and on your mobile device. WHS11.com and our WHAS11 app are very helpful. Both of those resources have really high resolution radar maps that you can track along with us as well. And if your television signal ever goes out, you can also get us in those ways too. So this is the line that we're watching out to our west. It's now moved east of Evansville, and it's been tracking to the east at about 70 to 80 miles per hour. And so it's getting a little bit closer. I'd say it's now about 50 miles to the west and southwest of downtown Louisville. And on that path, it is heading towards English at about 2:20, into Paoli at about 2:25, 3 o'clock. It's just racing. It's moving very quickly. I know it looks like it's kind of far away, but man, it is moving fast. Fort Knox at about 2:30 into Louisville Metro. That time has not changed since we've been tracking here. Still around 2:45 for downtown Louisville. So you got about a half hour to prepare. Hopefully it's not trash day like it is at my house. Seymour at about 3 o'clock heading your direction up in Jackson County. Brownstown about the same up there. Into LaGrange at about 3 o'clock up into Oldham County or just after that. And then Madison, look how fast, by about 3:10, 3:20. And then it's out of our viewing area by around 3:30. So that time frame we've been giving you is still on track with how impressively fast this squall line is moving through our region. So we've got a report of power outages about 3,900. Now, Lena, is that in Metro Louisville? Okay, so LG&E power outages before the main event is up to about 4,000. So that's likely to continue to go up. So there's different factors that we talk about. The ground is super saturated. It is literally like soup down there around the root systems of the trees. That, even though the trees don't have leaves, which would make them fall even easier, these trees can fall pretty easy thanks to the loose root systems. Not only that, you keep in mind, we've had 7 wind advisories this winter knocking around the trees. So they may be more susceptible to dropping on power lines and causing those power outages. I had a large tree in my backyard that fell this morning, and it wasn't even that breezy because of how loose the dirt was. And that's the situation that we're going to see.
Hey, Ben, look at those clouds on the MetroCam behind you. You can see just how quickly they're moving, and that's a good visual of how fast these wind speeds are above the surface when we're talking about 80 up to 100 miles per hour. So they are moving very, very quickly. We haven't taken a look outside yet, which is why I'm circling through our various MetroCams here. So that's on top of the Galt House Hotel looking to the east. You can see the rain on our University of Louisville camera literally blowing sideways. That's how strong these winds are at the moment. This is looking obviously more to the north and northwest. We're going to be watching for some of those storms to be entering the area from. Currently 60 degrees, so our temperatures have been rising. This morning we were in the 40s, so that warm front, Ben, has likely begun to lift north of the area, which is going to just kind of juice up the atmosphere a little bit more and allow for more fuel for any for that line that's headed our way to be moving in. Otherwise, I don't see anything that looks too out of the ordinary as I continue to click through many of these cameras.
Yeah, and if you've never been in a strong tropical storm or like a weak Category 1 hurricane, the conditions that we'll have out there at times, it'll be like that. Again, those clouds racing horizontal across the sky and winds just above say the trees, I mean, not very far, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 feet are going to be racing at around 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. So there you can see the big raindrops coming down right over Metro Louisville. Still very difficult driving conditions, not a real safe day to be outside. I would even avoid just kind of walking through the park if you were going to plan to do that at some point today. Because of things that could just be flying around. Again, it brings back memories of 2008, September 14th, when we had the remnants of Ike moving through. There's just that much jet stream energy, and you don't know when that could be brought right to the ground. So that is the heavy rain that we have over Metro. Let's zoom in and look at some of the heavy pockets of rain. Every once in a while, some rumbles of thunder as well. You've got a little break over southern Indiana before that main squall line will move in. Heavy stuff coming down over much of Shelby County. That is heading your direction very soon. Heavy pockets around Mount Washington. around Okolona, Fern Creek, Highview, Hillview, heavy rainfall just north of Taylorsville. It's coming down heavy, and that's moving from the southwest up to the northeast out ahead of that main line. So this does not have a warning on it, but still very gusty. If you want to put back up the wind gust speeds that we have out there at Alden and just kind of check and look around, see what we're dealing with at this time. It looked like it was about 30 in Louisville. Wind gust up to 44 in Litchfield. That was near 50 in Elizabethtown last check. This is what we call the low-level jet. So that is moving north on the east side of the center of the low pressure system. So that is the jet that's going to lift over the area out ahead of the low pressure system. Once that front moves through, we're going to have actually stronger, just what we call gradient winds. It has nothing to do with thunderstorms. It's just the strength of the power of the overall storm system that'll keep some of the wind gusts up around 50 to 65 miles per hour through this evening. And again, nothing to do with thunderstorms. Okay, yeah.
They've extended the flash flood warning for Crawford, Du Bois, Orange, and Perry counties in Indiana, and also Breckenridge, Hancock, and Meade counties in Kentucky until 4:15 p.m. So they're likely still seeing some very heavy rain. Here's an updated rainfall map for you. Over 3 inches, at least in Huntingburg. And remember, these are just the locations that actually have a rain gauge. Your neighborhood or some other smaller areas could easily have well over this amount of rainfall. At least 2.71 inches of rain here in Metro Louisville. You can see how much less there is as you head further south. I'll pop back up the warnings map so we can see that exact area that I was mentioning for that flash flood warning that's been extended until 4:15 p.m. And I'll also briefly take off our severe thunderstorm warnings as well so we can see. It's this location right here. We were telling you this for the last couple of days. Along I-64 north to about Highway 56 in southern Indiana. That region was the area that was most likely to see the heaviest rainfall and that would have the highest flash flooding risk. We were mentioning this yesterday, and that's exactly what's happening right now. So that flash flood warning has been extended until 4:15. And regarding that line of storms that we're still waiting for, it's really pushing into Du Bois County now, Ben. I would not be surprised if they extend that severe thunderstorm warning here momentarily, but that area of heavy rain is why that flood warning has been extended. I'm also seeing reports, these are delayed reports, out from Simpson County on that line move through of some damage from those straight line winds. So this is still a threat.
And it takes a little while, maybe 15 minutes, half hour, sometimes an hour to get the reports. And this does need extended, and it will be, that severe thunderstorm warning. Very strong winds heading over Jasper and Du Bois County now, so starting to move into our viewing area. Here is Perry County, just east of Santa Claus, Indiana, and Holiday World. And then down here in Breckenridge County, you've got the line moving into your direction. So this could actually strengthen because we're kind of heading into the mid-afternoon, the warmest part of the day. Our temperatures will likely start to head up to the mid and upper 60s here very shortly in Louisville as that airflow is very strong from the south. Here's the latest track on that squall line heading towards Patoka Lake. Not a good day at all to be on the water. Please not be on the water today at all. That's heading your direction here at about 1:20, 1:30 East Central Time into tornado warning there. It looks like it's popped up in our viewing area, likely for that line. Yeah, so that's clipping Crawford County and into Orange County and much of Du Bois County. For that right there is a brand new tornado warning. That is the point we've been trying to make. There can just be these embedded supercells and little spin up tornadoes that is going to be a danger for us. So right around Ferdinand, I-64 is right here. Here is the greater Du Bois County area under that tornado warning. The tornado warning includes Patoka Lake, southwestern corner here of Orange County and far western sections of Crawford County, and then also clipping parts of Perry County. If you live in Birdseye, if you live in the Patoka Lake area, out towards Huntingburg and Jasper, it is now time to take action and get to your safe place. This storm is moving faster than most storms that we've ever seen. This is a unique situation, so when we tell you to go ahead and take shelter, please do it immediately. Obviously, once you stay calm, if you have kids, make sure they know what's going on in a calm manner. It is time that we prepared you all week with Severe Weather Awareness Week. Have your severe weather safety kit ready to go. First aid, maybe some snacks, batteries for hopefully your weather radio. Also your cell phone charge, maybe a cell phone charger, and also just some extra things to protect you. Lowest level of your home, away from the doors and the windows. This is a track on the tornado warning that we have.
60 miles per hour record.
Moving 60 miles per hour off to the north and northeast. This, by the way, is about 50 miles out to the west, 50 to 60 miles west of Louisville, heading towards Mentor at about 220, Patoka Lake area at about 125 to 130. So in just about 10 to 15 minutes heading towards Patoka Lake there in southwestern Orange County into the Norton area at 2:30 Eastern time. French Lick, heads up. Heading your way at about 2:30. You'll want to be seeking shelter there very soon as well. As we switch over into the velocity mode, those orange colors there, Alden, I'm guessing we're talking, what, 90 mile an hour?
This is actually debris tracker, Ben. Just
Okay.
wanted to be sure that we weren't actually picking up on anything. I don't see any reports of actual damage, but just wanted to be safe and go ahead and give that a check here. Also, we just got a flood of rain reports. This is still very important. 4 miles east of Jasper in Du Bois County. 5.32 inches of rain. So it is dumping rain out there, and that's why we have these flood warnings in effect. But obviously the priority right now is that tornado warning, so I'll switch it back to velocity mode here, and we'll try to find any of those areas of rotation.
And I don't want to spend much time on velocity. I really want to spend more time on tracking, but just take a look at some of the wind speeds here. If you want to try to click around a little bit, there's just different little notches in this line that is moving into Du Bois County. That's just 41 there. Looks like there's just little different areas of rotation. So definitely this is radar indicated. We do not have a confirmation at this time that a tornado is on the ground, but please treat it like it is. This is not going to take very long to get through your area. This will be gone in about 10 minutes from Du Bois County. So I know you can be nervous, you can be a bit fearful, but this won't take long as you seek shelter immediately. There's the expansion of the severe thunderstorm warning to cover the rest of Orange County. This spreads into a bit of Washington County, covering much of Crawford County as well. And I would also treat the severe thunderstorm warnings like a tornado warning, because you could have wind gusts in excess of 70, 80 miles per hour, which is like an EF0 tornado. Those straight line winds can do some significant damage to life and property as well. So right now we currently have this tornado warned area for this part of the squall line that's moving to the northeast at about 60 miles per hour, heading towards Patoka Lake at about, again, same kind of time frame, 125 up towards Patoka Lake and into Paoli at about 2:35 Eastern time. So Mitchell, not far from Bedford, into Lawrence County there at about 2:40, into the Bono area at about 2:45 Eastern time. You can see right behind me, here's Louisville, in case you're wondering where we're at. So this is about a 40-50 mile drive off to the west down Interstate 64 is where you're going to encounter that. Let's look at the bottom end of that squall line as well, just to see how far south that stretches. With more severe thunderstorm warnings here, we still have a threat of some damaging winds along this entire line that's moving towards through Breckenridge County over Hardinsburg. Just stay inside while you've got that warning, and then also down towards Litchfield as well. It's not going to take much time to get into Louisville. That distance will be made up here, I'd say, in the next half hour. So our time frame on the storm track has been 2:45 to move over the Ohio River and into Metro Louisville. It's about 40 miles to the southeast and to the southwest, and it's moving at about 70 miles. So it's not going to, again, it's going to take about 30, 35 minutes to move into downtown Louisville. So that's your heads up for Metro Louisville. We just had batch number 1 of some heavy rain. We've got more on the way. Here's that latest severe thunderstorm warning again. English, Patoka Lake, Paoli, French Lick. Please be seeking shelter at this time. Damaging storms heading your direction, right on the edge of a very powerful low pressure system, tapping into some very strong, fierce jet stream winds that are not too far off the ground level. Let's go ahead and back up. We'll look at the overall view. Tornado watch until 5 p.m. for most of our viewing area. That was my concern earlier. The closer you get to that area of low pressure, a better chance of some of these spin-up tornadoes with the energy that we have in the atmosphere. So this goes until 5 p.m., our tornado watch. This will likely be canceled maybe an hour early because I think most of the threat of severe storms will be gone in about an hour or so. A very large area under a severe thunderstorm warning. I do think the severe thunderstorm warnings that are only 40 miles southwest of Louisville, I think that will be expanded to the east and northeast here very shortly. Large area out to the west, I want to mention, under a flash flood warning. Flash flooding is the #1 danger from thunderstorms. Tornadoes are #2, but both of them very threatening at this time through the next, I'd say, hour to an hour and a half. I'd say by 3:30, it's out of the viewing area. Our storm track earlier showed it heading towards Madison, right on the edge of our viewing area by around 3:20 or so. So the threat at the moment is just off to the west of I-64. Doug Proffitt is now in the studio. And what do you have, Doug?
Ben, for a moment, I wanted to give you an update on the status of Metro Louisville. Just got off the phone with the Emergency Management Agency here in town. Louisville right now is in good shape despite all the drenching rain we've had. We have had no injuries so far. So thankful as we see this gap that, of course, we have to be so mindful of what's getting ready to move in here within the next hour, as Alden and Ben have been telling you. Also, as far as rescues are concerned, they're really describing them more of assisting people. They've been helping people get out of some of their cars around the area that have gone into high water. You've been seeing that here on our WHAS 11 news coverage throughout the afternoon. But the good point is that the things are starting to drain, even though we've had a lot of ponding. When I came into downtown through the Butchertown area a little bit ago, Main Street at one point looked like part of the Ohio River, and then suddenly, with a few minutes after that, it drained away. So despite the heavy rain coming down so far, we've had no injuries, we've had no loss of life, and right now we are just waiting for this next system to come in, which, Ben, I know we've also been in touch with the folks talking to Western Kentucky. They have a lot of tree damage there. Evansville is reporting that as well. There was a possible tornado there. They're trying to, really confirm whether that is the case. So good news at the moment for Louisville, but as you're saying, what are we now, Ben? Maybe within 30 minutes or so, things are going to change again?
Yeah, I'd say about 25 minutes we'll start to see this move into Louisville. Alden has that track on this tornado-warned area. As anticipated, we now have all of Harrison County under a brand new severe thunderstorm warning. And we have to be extra alert, be extra aware that anywhere within a severe thunderstorm warning, we could have a little spin-up tornado. So we really got to watch that very closely, like we just saw here with that tornado-warned area in southwestern Orange County and in the western Crawford County as well. So the most threatening part of the storm that we've been talking about for days is now on the doorstep of Louisville and areas along Interstate 65 and now moving into the western sections of our viewing area. So here's a track heading to Paoli at about 2:35 into. Now, this is a little misleading. I think it's going to be here a little sooner than 2:57. I'd say 2:45 for, let's say, Shively Valley Station and also towards southwestern sections of Metro Louisville. So we're going to have to watch out for that moving right over the river. Now, the east end of Louisville might take a little bit longer for it to get there. Into Seymour, right about 3 o'clock. North Vernon, just after 3 o'clock, heading your direction. So this squall line moving up to the northeast at about 70 miles per hour. There have been reports of some wind gusts up around 80, as Doug mentioned, causing some tree and power line damage. Last check, the power outages were about 3,900 in Louisville, and certainly there's a chance that could go up. Oh, it's doubled now. It's 8,800 without power in Louisville, and that's before our main threat has even moved through the area. So we're waterlogged around the area, and that makes those trees easier to fall over. If you want to inspect some of those wind speeds, yeah, go ahead there, Alden, and see what we're dealing with. When the storms get closer, the wind speeds are going to be closer to the ground because the radar angle goes up a little bit. So imagine the radar here at Fort Knox is going up into the atmosphere. So this might be about 1,500, 2,000 feet off the ground. And so there's a lot of energy that these storms are using. There you saw those pixels upwards of around 90 miles per hour. There's little yellow if you look very, very closely, and those are up near 90 miles per hour. So dangerous storm, possibly destructive winds that we're going to watch for. I'm curious where our storm team meteorologist Reed Yaden is. If he's been encountering some of these winds just yet, we'll be checking in on him. There's little potential spin ups. That's why we have this tornado warning in this area right here. So Birdseye, please be seeking shelter at this time. This is Newton Stewart. This is Patoka Lake. This is Du Bois County. This is Crawford County. This is southwestern Orange County. If you live in this area or surrounding smaller communities, want to be seeking shelter at this time. Interstate 64 is here in Crawford County. This is northern Perry County, that is, and then here's Crawford County. So this is moving very, very rapidly. Check that out, Alden. Out ahead of the winds, there's like a little embedded looking spin up right there.
So can you point that out again, please?
Right there. So there's a little lightning strike along with that. Maybe if we just check the reflectivity, there might be a reflection there of that. And also maybe even the correlation coefficient to see if there's any debris with that signature too. Any debris that might be associated with the squall line would be moving very, very rapidly. Not seeing any debris ball signatures necessarily. What we're looking at is something that looks different than everything else here, and that would indicate the potential of some debris flying around. Just a very small indication of that near the Birdseye area. Please be taking action, seeking shelter. Tornado warning, southwestern Orange County, western Crawford. Here's Du Bois County. There's the squall line. It is just about 40 miles off to the west and southwest of Louisville right now. This is kind of a cluttered batch moving east of I-65. There are no warnings on that. We do have some new severe thunderstorm warnings for Meade County, Harrison County, so we're talking just off to the west of Louisville. This should be the main line of concern, and once we get that to move through, then we're talking about the high wind warning. Not associated with thunderstorms, but some wind gusts could still be around 50 to 65 miles per hour. So
we're seeing reports of trees down in Du Bois County in the Jasper area. So taking a little bit of time. There's always that delay with some of those storm reports, but the emergency manager in Du Bois County is reporting some trees down. I don't see any reports of any structural damage to anything, but this is just verification that these winds are strong enough to blow over, to uproot trees. As Ben was saying earlier, the ground is so waterlogged, some of those root balls that are at the base of those trees right underneath the surface just can't really do much anymore, and they're too weak for it. And parts of Du Bois County have seen in excess of 5 inches of rain. Futurecast yesterday was indicating the potential for 5 inches of rain, and that's exactly what we've seen. We're still seeing that tornado warning in effect for Crawford, Du Bois, Orange, and Perry counties until 2:45. That's moving to the northeast at 70 miles per hour. 75 mile per hour wind gusts in Breckenridge County, according to the Mesonet station that's down there. So we are seeing some of those very, very strong winds. And if we take a look at radar again, I want to point out this kind of interesting feature, how the line sort of just seems to stop there at the southern part of Grayson County, but we're still seeing some of those fairly strong wind gusts, and we might even still have a little bit of development behind that main line bend that we'll have to keep an eye on, but these storms have probably used up a lot of that fuel.
Could be, and even this, I know it looks really wimpy down here, but these could be on their own become individual super cells on the tail end using a lot of energy where we cleared out in the atmosphere. So there is still a chance for strengthening. There's a chance for more tornado warnings along this line, even on the far end of that. A cell has just popped up here just off to the east of downtown. So here's the Watterson. So the zoo is about right here. So you've got some very heavy rainfall. There's not a warning on that, but some gusty winds, St. Matthews, just to the east of the Highlands, Ottoman Park right there. So heavy rainfall there within the Watterson, east of downtown. Got to watch every little cell that pops up. It's kind of like a tropical storm situation. The clouds can be, there's so much rotation close to the ground. A little spin-up tornado is very, very possible, and sometimes they happen so quickly, the scan on the radar can sometimes miss it. So If you're under, that's why we keep emphasizing, if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning, I would treat it like a tornado warning because there's been some wind gusts 70, 80 miles per hour. We just got some reports of some damage in Du Bois County, and notice that it just moved through there. It's going to take time. Sometimes those storm reports are delayed, but we definitely, those storm reports are useful to know exactly what's happening on the ground. Still a tornado warning for this area of southwestern Orange County. How long does it go into about 2:45?
2:45 Eastern time. I have not seen any reports of any confirmed tornadoes, but I'm looking at this area in particular here near Birdseye as we just got a new radar scan in. So let me reposition, and I'll throw our scope back on here to see if we see any areas of rotation, kind of right there near Patoka Lake in particular, and just moving through Birdseye. We have a little bit of that green touching red, which indicates some rotation. So if there was going to be a little spin up tornado, it would probably be in one of those two locations. So if you're near the Patoka Lake area, you should already be in your safe spot, lowest level, most interior portion, whatever building you're in, away from outside walls and windows. No confirmed tornado with this, but we're still not going to be taking the chance with it, as we are seeing those possibilities of some rotation there in that region. And in fact, we can throw on debris tracker really quick just to see. And I don't see anything that's necessarily a definitive characteristic of a debris ball signature, but we do kind of have some of those little green and yellow spots in their bin that could be indicating some potential tree damage. These are thankfully relatively rural areas, but obviously that can still be very disastrous if a tornado was to be reported. I'm seeing new reports coming in now from Du Bois County of large trees down in Jasper and at Klimper and 5th Street in Jasper, if you know that area. Yep. So they will probably send out damage survey teams to that area bin once this is all over to confirm whether or not those were straight line winds or if perhaps we did have a brief spin up tornado in that area.
And to me, it really doesn't matter. Like straight line winds, 70, 80, 90 miles per hour is going to do the same as like an EF0 tornado. Please be seeking shelter if a severe thunderstorm warning is issued for your area, or of course a tornado warning. Our storm team meteorologist Reed Yaden, I believe, is in Hardin County. I want to give him a checkup on his situation down there with storm storm chaser John Humphreys, and we will check in on Reed and see what's happening down that direction. Reed.
Okay, Ben, we've been keeping up with what you're doing there. At our location down here, we're at the kind of the tail end of the squall line. Kind of came apart. If you can get a radar image up down this way, you can see where one cell broke off. It is near Litchfield. It's not going to bother Litchfield. It's not severe, dropping a little bit of rain. And there's been a lot of clear skies, blue skies and sunshine down here. I do note the temperature's dropped 3 degrees in the past 10 minutes. We're just short of Elizabethtown at the present time. It is windy here. We're still getting some 25 to 35 mile per hour gust, but it's actually drying the roadway out at the present time. So we've called around, no reports of any damage down here. We've had some scattered reports of garbage cans and lawn furniture blowing around some, but no reports down this way of any damage at this point, despite some pretty strong winds over in Breckinridge County that Alden mentioned there a while ago, in excess of 70 miles an hour. So for the time being, we're going to head back toward Elizabethtown, and then I think we'll probably move north and basically encounter the line, but then kind of be behind it to pick up any damage that should develop and be in a position to cover that. That's what's going on down here, but a lot of clear skies in southern parts of the viewing area here in Hardin and Grayson County right now, enjoying some puffy white clouds and blue skies. Reed Yaden in Hardin County with John Humphreys. We'll check in with you again a little later.
Thank you, Reed. Yeah, very interesting storm system that is spring-like in nature. It has possibly hurricane force winds. So Reed is right about there with some of that clearing. You can see some cells just off to the west. We need to watch these very closely in case they strengthen or start to rotate. So Reed, as he travels north, might be able to intercept some of the activity that's about to move into Metro Louisville. Your time now, 2:33 on this Friday afternoon with the threatening weather. Let's start to gradually move back to the north here, Alden, and see how close some of these storms are to Metro Louisville. You can see they are now moving into Meade County. Anywhere along this line would not be surprised to get some trees down, some power lines down. Thankfully, the tornado threat has been limited so far. I think it's going to be a weak spin-up tornado if we do see one along this line. There still is that tornado warning at southwestern Orange County, but notice that line is starting to outpace the actual tornado warning. So I would, again, treat any of these severe thunderstorm warnings like a tornado warning. It won't take long for them to pass on by. Notice Du Bois County. You're in the clear as far as the severe weather threat from that squall line, and so is the majority of Perry County.
Take us back down to Breckenridge County because I'm getting multiple reports now of damage in Breckenridge County. Multiple trees down in Hardinsburg, specifically at 2nd Street in town. Also a report of trees down all over Highway 86 and the Stennettsville community, also in Breckenridge County. So it appears that we are seeing a lot of tree damage and a lot of trees being blown over, uprooted from this line of storms. And just for the record, that line has passed through Breckenridge County. So these are all delayed reports, and we might very well be seeing these same kind of reports coming out of Harrison County in Indiana and in Meade County as it gets ready to blow through those locations.
And there's no doubt about it, there's going to be a lot of power outages with this, and that's the southern end of the squall line. So this is even looking a little more powerful than what moved through Breckenridge County. So Breckenridge County, yeah, you're in the clear as far as the severe weather threat now. But I do want to remind you there could still be 50 to 65 mile per hour winds that come in shortly behind that. The jet stream is still really powerful all the way through this evening, and we're going to have the potential of damaging winds for quite some time. High wind warning continues until 10 p.m. So this is getting closer to Metro Louisville. We do have a strong thunderstorm here over St. Matthews, Butyl. Here's the Watterson at Interstate 64. Here's Shelbyville Road, Top Golf right about there. You've got heavy rain coming down on the east end of Louisville, now beginning to move towards the Snyder. This is drifting up to the northeast pretty rapidly. Right now, you might even see a little sunshine breakout in Louisville. That's that brief clearing that's going to happen right ahead of those strong storms just off to the west. So let's go ahead and back out that view a little bit. We're going to keep an eye on the reports that are coming in. But we do have, again, some heavy rainfall coming down over the east end of Louisville and down into northeast, or near Mount Washington, northeastern Bullitt County into Spencer County. Heavy rain in Shelbyville. None of this actually has a warning on it. The main threat is just off to the west. I would say that is only about 15 miles over the river is where we have that main squall line tapping into those very strong winds. This part of the squall line is now beginning to move out of that tornado warned area. There's just a little bit of that left, still be seeking shelter in southwestern Orange County between Patoka Lake, Paoli, and French Lick, and West Baden Springs as well. That's going to be cruising northeast around 70 miles per hour. Also, the threat exists here in Crawford County. Stay in your place of shelter around English and the rest of Crawford County. And get ready, Harrison County. You're under that severe thunderstorm warning that's heading directly towards Corden over the next few minutes. Palmyra as well.
I have some power outage numbers. Lena Duncan, our executive producer, just provided these to me. Lena, if you could also maybe get that map up on the Web3 computer, if possible, so we can show those in particular. But LG&E reporting 8,763 customers without power, and throughout the state of Kentucky, over 75,000, nearly 75,300 without power at the moment. So this is causing some damage, and I do suspect we'll see those numbers continue to increase here. Just to be clear with that, how many, Doug?
14. Louisville's
Just 1-4?
14, yeah.
Oh, okay. So
And that tells you need service area.
okay, so to be absolutely clear, in the metro area, only 14 power outages, but you can see on that map now, most of those power outages in the state are in the western half of Kentucky, where they did have the strongest wind speeds moving through not too long ago, and that's totaling up to about 75,000 power outages at the moment. The tornado warning in Perry County has been canceled, and they are continuing that tornado warning in Crawford, Du Bois, and Orange County until 2:45. I haven't seen any discussion of continuing it, so I would imagine that they would let that expire. And I'm now getting reports of power outages in the Celestine area in Du Bois County as well. And also just coming in, they do not plan to continue that tornado warning that's currently out there, but they will continue to monitor trends in case a new one needs issuing. So been some good news there. A lot of developments coming in at the moment, and we're still seeing some of those very high wind speeds and continuing to get reports of tree damage and power outages across the entire, really across the western half of the state, west of I-65. So we'll have to keep a close eye on anything that could occur here in the metro area. And although we don't have any warnings in Metro Louisville, we do still have some very heavy rain that's moving into the east end at the moment. If we can take that radar image behind me full, please, so we can see exactly where that is. And we just had a new update. So Prospect, St. Matthews, exiting your area, or really in St. Matthews, between the Watterson and the Gene Snyders, where we're seeing some of that torrential rainfall at the moment. Would not be surprised if we ended up with some sudden flooding problems in that area, Ben.
Yeah, flooding a concern always with the very heavy rainfall. Let's go ahead and look out to the west. We're coming up on 240. We kept saying around 245, 246 that we'd see this line start to move into Metro Louisville. This is the line that caused all those power outages in western Kentucky. So please take it very seriously as it moves through your area. Looking at it now, this is not going to take long to get into Louisville. Corden, you're up next, and we can actually put a track. Let's go ahead and put a track from basically near Paoli down to the southern tip and then up to the northeast at around 70. And we'll take that up to the northeast, and we'll give you an idea when it may be heading into your community. So heading toward Bedford, Indiana at about 2:45, just about 5 minutes, heading into Brownstown as we approach 3 o'clock, into Louisville before 3 o'clock. Into Anchorage, the east end of Louisville at around 3:05, 3:10, Madison, Indiana, not long after that, before 3:30, and into Carrollton, Rushville, Randolph. Some of these areas are outside of our viewing area shortly after 3:30. So it looks like by about 3 to 3:30, a lot of this is going to be moving up to the northeast of Louisville and then quickly out of our viewing area.
Another damage report for you. This one actually involving a structure now. A tree on a house through the roof on Meadow Street in Irvington. That's in Meade County. So a tree on the house through the roof on Meadow Street in Irvington. I believe that's coming from the emergency manager there in Breckenridge. Excuse me, in Irvington.
That's here in Meade County right here. Heading right over Brandenburg right now is the very strong. Let's go zoom in right over Brandenburg because that's very near Fort Knox. It's very close to the Valley Station area. And so this is racing right over the Ohio River, now over the Leavenworth area. There's the Horseshoe Bend,
Ben, do you see
if you're
that
familiar
little,
with that.
Hold on, I'm going to put on velocity there because I see that little hook.
There's a little notch right there to the southeast of New Amsterdam, maybe a little bit of rotation. There's going to be little notches along this whole area, no doubt about that. And there we can see that severe thunderstorm warning continues over Harrison County, and that will likely be expanded into Metro Louisville here very shortly as well. Alden, go ahead, you can go ahead and back out if you'd like and show the broader view. We do have that tornado watch that continues until 5 o'clock, and then the most threatening area right now is really over areas along and north of the Ohio River, and the storms have not expanded much farther south towards Elizabethtown, which is kind of a little bit surprising so far.
Ben, I'm getting a lot more damage reports starting to come in now. This one out of Grayson County. Trees down in Tar Hill in eastern Grayson County. This individual reports that their neighbor's roof is gone as well. Lilac Road in Litchfield. They believe it's just metal siding, but they're still going to head over there to see if there's any structural damage. Also, just outside of our viewing area in Ohio County, ham radio operator reporting that power is out in the community of Fordsville describing it as pretty much the entire town of Fordsville in Ohio County is out of power. So again, trees down in Tar Hill and eastern Grayson County, possibly part of a roof missing from somebody's home. They will be headed over there to verify that. So we are continuing now to really start to see some of these storm reports come in. And this was well after that line already pushed through the region. So still very, very destructive wind speeds that are here as this line is now pushing into Harrison County. We're also going to have to watch some of these little tail end spots. We call them bookend vortices, Ben, just to get a little technical there. You can see them south of English, north of Alton, and also just to the northwest of Brandenburg. We'll have to watch those areas, even right there near Corden, to the southwest of Corden. We'll have to watch some of those little inflow notches, as we also call them, being tactical for any potential rotation.
It's ragged. There's little notches here and there, and that can produce little spin-up tornadoes. You can see that kind of Boeing segment here. There's likely tree damage going on over central Orange County, around Paoli, just moved through French Lick, down through Crawford County, right over the top of English, moving into Harrison County. It's not far from Louisville now. It's getting much, much closer to Valley Station. Right on that leading edge is where you're going to get that damage. That is the channel to get the jet stream down to the ground, basically moving through Brandenburg right now. So the Meade County, you're about in the clear as far as this squall line. But a reminder, still a high wind warning for the rest of today through 10 p.m. where we could still see winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, even without thunderstorms. So there's that little break between that initial line of heavy rainfall. Yes, heavy rain coming down over Oldham County, but there's no warnings on that. This is what we're waiting on. This is the main show that's beginning to move into southwestern Washington County very soon. Again, tree damage likely, power outages likely over Orange County, now heading towards Mitchell in Lawrence County, Indiana, up to the Bedford area. Please be seeking shelter if you're under a severe thunderstorm warning. The winds that are being produced out of this very strong line of storms capable of producing EF0 type of damage, which can definitely lift roofs off barns, can cause damage, and can be very, very dangerous. Obviously, a lot of tree damage will be reported. So likely getting some damage reports very soon once this moves through Harrison County, right on top of Corden, up Highway 150 towards Palmyra. Highway 150 goes from the Knobs up through Palmyra up towards Paoli. It's going to be crossing over Highway 150 very soon. And then Salem, you're up next here in the next 15 minutes or so, heading your direction. From Salem, you've got Highway 56 over to Scottsburg. It's going to be moving your direction very soon through the Borden Valley, Highway 60, your area in the next 20 minutes, into Metro Louisville in the next few minutes. Look how quickly that moved through Brandenburg there, Alden, and is now heading towards Fort Knox and Valley Station,
Ben,
and towards Shively.
There's a track for you really quick, and then I'd like to take another look outside because we haven't looked outside in a little bit, and I do see quite a bit of sunshine beginning to appear here in the metro area, which, as you were saying earlier, can be a sign that we'll start to get those really strong winds that are aloft a few hundred to a couple thousand feet in the ground, making their way down to the surface.
Let me do the track. Let me give you time to point those cameras out to the west. We've got a new severe thunderstorm warning, and we'll get to that here in just a moment as well. Let's go full screen, guys. Let's get to the track. So this is heading into Louisville basically in the next few moments, into Sellersburg at about 3 o'clock, Seymour, Indiana, up in Jackson County near I-65, exit Highway 50, exit 50 on I-65 in Seymour at about 3:10, into the North Vernon area in Jennings County at 3:20, Madison before 3:30. So this will be out of the viewing area by about 3:30. So it's just on our doorstep here, moving into Fort Knox, the very northern tip of Hardin County, Bullitt County, and into Jefferson County here in Kentucky here very soon. This is again the track of where that's heading. We're going to pull up some camera views here. We've got a little clearing between that cell right there in the east end of Louisville and that squall line. This is what the models have been predicting for days. That curvature right there, that is tapping into the jet stream winds and bringing it down to the ground. So a live look here with our U of L Health Camera Network, our Belmont Village Senior Living Cam, looking from Louisville. And this is looking up, looks like over Interstate 65 up into our northeastern sky. And we probably have some cameras pointed out to the west that we'll check as well. Very ominous sky conditions. It's almost kind of like you're in the eye of the storm. The winds might kind of die down from that first round and then bam, we're going to get hit with that squall line. It's going to be moving into downtown Louisville here within the next few minutes. Likely right as we hit the 3 o'clock hour is when we'll have that line moving through Louisville, and unfortunately probably causing quite a few power outages as well. The storms are now moving through Harrison County. They've moved through Brandenburg, Kentucky, right on the Ohio River. Here's a look in Scottsburg, Indiana. You can see those clouds racing through that area too. It's probably still about 15 minutes, 20 minutes from Scottsburg, Indiana. But it's going to be really moving quickly up towards I-65 and all areas really along and north of the river. It's very interesting. We haven't had a lot of development south of Louisville. We'll kind of wait and see if anything does pop in that area. This is not severe east of Louisville. This is what we're watching. This is what we're waiting for. This is a history of destructive and damaging winds moving through Corydon right now, heading over Palmyra, heading into Washington County, Indiana. In Paola, a new severe thunderstorm warning. Severe thunderstorm warning out for Scott County, Washington, Jackson, and Lawrence counties. All of Clark County under a severe thunderstorm warning. Floyd, and notice that the west sections of Louisville also in that severe thunderstorm warning. So as we zoom into the
until 3 p.m. Ben, for the record, I'll get a track here in just a second. They're moving to the northeast at 70 miles per hour, and extreme western Jefferson County just being clipped by one of those warnings as well. I'm also going to have some more damage reports and power outage numbers to report to you here in a couple of minutes. Let me get a track on that for you.
Let's go in close to Metro Louisville really quickly. So it looks like it's right towards the casino, and there's Valley Station, there's Shively, and it's moving through Corydon right now. There's Elizabeth, Indiana. So there's the Ohio River. There's 111. Lanesville, be seeking shelter now. All you guys, Floyd, Clark County, seek shelter. You're in the way of destructive winds, possibly in excess of 70 miles per hour, possibly hurricane force winds coming out of this thing. Also, you can see that we have portions of Louisville now under the severe thunderstorm warning. That includes, it looks like downtown Louisville, Shively, all towards the west end and down towards PRP, Valley Station. And this will likely be expanded to the east over the next few minutes as well. Let's go and put on velocity too and just see what's on the ground. I mean, we're very close to the radar. The radar beam is emanating down here towards out of Fort Knox. And we're going to see some pretty impressive wind speeds, I imagine, very close to the ground. This is a look at the potential destructive winds right there under that severe thunderstorm warning that we have now moving into Metro Louisville. We'll go ahead and check out those winds and see if we can query some of those. Sometimes when you have the warning on, it's not going to be able to let you hit those wind speeds.
Purple color, Ben, is data that the radar is having trouble discerning. I was trying to click on the Ollie International Airport radar to see if it would be able to load up, but it looks like we're having some delays there trying to get that information in.
Yeah, just stick with Fort Knox.
Okay.
Yep. So here's a look at the winds that we're checking out here with that squall line moving through. So 30, not too bad. They can be very, very isolated. Some of those very strong wind gusts. There you can see over 40 near Lanesville. So not too terrible overall, but this has had a history of producing some significant damage to trees and power lines. So we're going to be watching this as it moves into Louisville now, much of southern Indiana. Let's go back to there's a little Boeing segment right there as well as it's heading into just north of Marengo here, Crawford County. This is look at Hardinsburg, Fredericksburg, Oregon Springs. We are in the Washington and Orange counties areas of southern Indiana. Let's go ahead and kind of reset, look at the broad view, see where we have, how long this squall line is over the area. So basically it's connected from Fort Knox all the way up to Bedford, so all of southern Indiana, and clipping all areas along the Ohio River. And then it's just broken and unorganized down to the south. There's one little cell there near Elizabethtown. There could still be some gusty wind conditions, but it is interesting that we really haven't had anything fire farther off to the south. closer to the area of low pressure is where we're seeing some of the stronger winds. And you can see that arcing segment right there that the models have been picking up for days. And that is where we have the potential of some straight line wind gusts that can do definitely some damage and cause some property damage and cause quite a few power outages as well. Here's the latest track. Heading to Sellersburg here at 3 o'clock, Seymour at around 3:05, North Vernon at around 3:20, Madison still at around 3:25, and then we're starting to head out of the viewing area after that. The southern end of this pretty potent line of storms about to clip parts of Metro Louisville as well. New Albany, Sellersburg, Jeffersonville, all be seeking shelter. Up a little farther north into Henryville, Otisco, Borden Valley be seeking shelter. Pekin, in all areas up Highway 150. It is on top of you now, and then it's going to be heading up Highway 60, and then eventually from Scottsburg to Salem, you get Highway 56. So it's going to be heading over all these areas, and it's going to be probably producing some scattered damage and power outages as well. Very interesting setup, and very gusty winds will come after this line. So it looks like as far as severe weather, let's look on the back side of this line and see who's in the clear for the moment. So the storms have now passed through Paoli and French Lick. It is now to the east of English. That real threatening line is now moved east of you guys in Jasper. The warnings are over for you. Perry County now is out of the way of the tornado damage and the straight line winds, and it looks like you're done with it in Brandenburg. We're clear of that threat, it looks like, in Hardinsburg and Litchfield. Now behind that line, again, anywhere in this region, we could have some wind gusts around 50 to 60 plus miles per hour all the way through this evening, with just some really strong jet stream winds on the back side of this really strong storm system. Right now, wind gusts, we got 40 in Elizabethtown, Hardinsburg at 41. Thankfully, the tornado threat has been limited. Very, very thankful. We'll cross our fingers that that continues here for the next half hour as this line moves through our area. We'll keep an eye on if anything tries to develop behind it, but this should be the main line that moves through Kentuckiana. You were mentioning, Alden, that you may have had a few more reports that came in?
Yes, these are still out of Du Bois County, primarily just reports of some trees down and a couple of power lines. I do have some new power outage numbers for you, as it also appears that part of the tornado watch has been trimmed. So that's an important thing for us to look at. Grayson County no longer in the tornado watch. So your tornado watch has ended. The tornado watch is still in effect for all those counties shaded there in that pink until 5 p.m. As for some of those new power outage numbers for the LG&E coverage area, a little over 6,000. Okay, I just got a new update there. That's why I stopped talking. Excuse me. 8,300 now without power in the LG&E coverage area. That does not necessarily include Metro Louisville. Metro Louisville, Jefferson County, only 15. So in the city itself, we're doing very well in terms of power outages. Only 15 that are out. However, across the state, 84,695. Those are primarily in the western half of the state. Lena, if you can bring up that statewide map, please, so we can see where precisely those are. She's going to bring that up here for us in just a second. So we are continuing to see those power outages increase, particularly in the western half of the state. And a lot of the damage reports that I've seen, Ben, have been coming from out west, including down in the Bowling Green area. Some of the Mesonet sites have been reporting wind gusts as this line has pushed through over 60 up to 70 miles per hour. So those shades of red and oranges there really showing you where the bullseye of those power outages have been. Western Kentucky, unfortunately, yet again, taking the brunt of some pretty significant severe weather rolling through the Bluegrass State today. Ben.
I am also curious about Grayson County. You can see it there in the orange. So they may have a significant amount of power outages, and it looks like Breckenridge County also dealing with some power outages as well. So let's get back to Metro Louisville. This is happening now. It is 2:56. So we're going to have this squall line moving through parts of Louisville here very shortly. And look at that very tail end. This is the very end of the squall line, right to the north of Fort Knox, moving over Valley Station. Here's Shively, PRP, west end of Louisville. This is now moved over Corden. We've got the leading edge of the line now cruising very quickly over Floyd County. New Albany be seeking shelter at this time. Downtown Louisville, gusty winds. If we can point some cameras out to the west, let's see what's happening. We can take the Galt House camera, look out to the west. We can take a lot of different cameras here and see what's happening real time with our Metro cameras here in just a second. We have the storms now moving into the Borden Valley. Don't be surprised with some tree damage, some power outages in these areas. So we got the knobs right here. Here's Greenville, Starlight, Huber's up here right on top of you guys right now. So this is moving towards Sellersburg here in just a couple minutes. Going to be moving through Clarksville with some really gusty winds. So we'll not be surprised in this general area in Floyd County that we get some scattered power outage reports here pretty soon, and maybe some tree damage as well. Let's go a little bit farther to the north. We do have more severe thunderstorm warnings as we look up to the north. This is South Boston into Washington County, right on top of Salem. Here's 160, and then here's Highway 56 from Scottsburg over to Salem. The sectionals have been postponed till tomorrow, from what I understand, the basketball sectionals, because of this inclement weather moving through. You'll be surprised, I think, once the storms move through, how just gusty the winds will be for the rest of this evening. It could still be very difficult driving conditions out there later on this evening. So we're looking off towards the southwestern sky with our U of L health camera. This is from Louisville, looking from on top of one of their taller buildings. So the rain is just starting to clip the southwestern section of Metro Louisville at this time. We might get a few rumbles of thunder as well. There hasn't been a ton of lightning in the squall line that we've been tracking here across the area over the last about hour and a half as we come up to the 3 o'clock hour. Some of the antennas just kind of rocking around a little bit. This is a look from on top of the Galt House. You can see looking over the Loxton Dam there and looking at those clouds racing across the sky. Sherman Minton Bridge there in the far left side. So there's the look at that heavy rain and the gusty winds moving over New Albany and much of Floyd County live right now. So we've been seeing it on the radar. We're seeing it live as well. So we'll go back to max HD radar. The wind gusts as well are looking over 40 miles per hour. This is the low level jet. This is the winds that we're waiting on behind the front. And notice they're swirling in from the southwest behind that squall line. So notice this up here to the north, light winds at the moment around Highway 50. That's going to change in a hurry as these winds start to ramp up. I think these winds will start to increase behind the storms quite a bit. Again, 50, 60 plus miles per hour. With
and a ground truth on that, Ben, that just came in. 71 mile per hour wind gusts in Simpson County, where there currently really is not much of any type of precipitation falling. And you were also just mentioning up to the north, as I pull radar back up, National Weather Service in Louisville put out a little discussion on that, saying that severe thunderstorm warning currently in place across southern Indiana may not be extended because the warm front is sitting in Washington, Scott, and Jefferson County, Indiana. And those locations are currently in the upper 40s to the low 50s. That's the air temperature. And the low level air just might be too stable for any of those severe winds to reach the surface. Reach the surface. They said they'll continue to monitor it, but unless they see a dramatic jump northward of that warm front, they don't really think the severe weather threat will be that high north of pretty much Highway 56 in the near term. So that warm front has kind of just parked itself over southern Indiana at the moment.
That cooler air could save you guys quite a bit of a headache and dealing with some damage up here around Highway 50. So as Alden mentioned, the air a little more stable at the surface up here where the warm air has not been able to rush to the north. Nonetheless, let's zoom into Louisville now as we here right at the 3 o'clock hour have the storms starting to move into downtown. You can see them right over 264 here into Shively, down through PRP into Valley Station. There's a good chance we could be channeling some really strong winds down to the ground. Wouldn't be surprised if we get some tree damage reports in these areas. Again, here's the Waterston, here's I-65, here's the Snyder. 841 Dixie Highway. So the storm is right over Dixie Highway right now. This is tracking to the northeast at about 70 miles per hour. We also have the squall line now moving right over the top of New Albany, over the Knobs. It's moved through Georgetown now in Lanesville. You're still going to get some gusty winds out behind this. About to cross over I-65 over Sellersburg, and here you can see over Jeffersonville, Clarksville as well. And let's go just a little trip up I-65 to where we have our most threatening weather right now with a severe thunderstorm warning covering all of Clark County. The storms are right over the top of Borden, Indiana, up towards Pekin, and heading to Henryville in the next few minutes, over the Clark Forest right now, and towards Underwood as well as you head up a little farther up I-65. We'll wait and see if we still see some reports from this, but I'm really thankful so far, Alden, how this has turned out. We have not seen a significant amount of tornadoes. We haven't had many tornado warnings, and we haven't seen the development much off to the south of Louisville as some of the weather models have been predicting a little bit earlier. Still not out of the woods necessarily. Again, Alden just mentioned a wind gust over 70 miles per hour out behind this system. With just dry conditions, with no thunderstorms whatsoever. Some very strong wind gusts will be coming in behind this squall line.
I have some more storm reports for you,
Ben. Yeah, go for it.
And we also have a number, Lena, you can go ahead and throw that on the screen to send us your photos. Just please be safe when you do so. Do not put yourself in harm's way or in danger just for the sake of getting a photo so we can show it on air. However, your photos can be very useful tools for us and understanding what exactly is going on in your neighborhood, as obviously we are stuck inside. There's that number on your screen, 502-582-7290. When you send us those photos, please tell us where exactly you took that photo from as well. As for additional storm reports, in Hardinsburg, there was a wind gust of 75 miles per hour at 2:25 p.m. So that's a fairly delayed report, but it is giving us an idea of how strong that line was as it was moving through here. Also in Temple, that's Crawford County, Indiana, emergency managers reporting a flash flood. That was this is also a delayed report from 11:30. Multiple roads washed out at Temple Road and Mulzer Quarry roads. And power is also out in Radcliffe at the moment. So we're continuing to see these power outages increase as this line currently moves through and as it continues even after it passes on by the region as well. As I said earlier, we had a report of a 75 mile per hour wind gust in Simpson County, Kentucky. So don't let that rain ending lull you into a false sense of security, because we are still going to be dealing with potentially destructive non-thunderstorm wind gusts that could result still in down trees and down power lines, which is already something that we were seeing earlier this morning before this severe weather threat was moving in. And of course, you do not want to get anywhere near a downed power line. Call your local power company and let them know. As for flash flooding, because we're still seeing some of that very heavy rain pushing it through the area, you want to turn around, don't drown. It's a nice little phrase for you to remember because it rhymes. Only 1 to 2 feet of flowing water washes away vehicles. It only takes 6 inches of water to knock a full-grown adult off of their feet. And if you don't know how deep an area of flooded roadway is, do not drive into it, because obviously it could be that 1 to 2 feet, and it can also be deceptively calm, but in reality has a very fast-moving current that's underneath the surface, which can result in you being swept away. And we certainly do not want any water rescues, not just for your sake, but also for the sake of our first responders, because they would have to put their lives in risk and in danger to rescue you. So thankfully, we have not had very many reports of any water rescues either. So Ben, as you were saying, so far, all things considered, not the worst for us, at least in terms of tornadoes, but it has still been fairly significant when it comes to those straight line wind damages. And a second spotter now in Radcliffe reporting a 55 mile per hour wind gust. Keep in mind, it's no longer raining in Radcliffe, and there are a few power lines down.
Yeah, and we'll continue to get some of those reports as we go back to our metro view of Max HD radar. I want to see what's happening with the rain and maybe some of the winds as we look at our velocity products as well. Squall lines still moving over southern Indiana right there along I-65. We're just kind of taking a look at some of the gusty winds here over downtown. Some of these colors, I would say in excess of 40, maybe 50 miles per hour. 75. I mean, that is really close to the ground. So that's really, really impressive wind speeds, even higher than I was expecting, right over New Albany and downtown, 68. So that is, I mean, the radar is right here. We're talking not much above the treetops as far as those really strong winds. So here's downtown, 87 mile per hour wind gusts. So there's a really good chance that some of those winds are making it down to the surface and are causing some tree damage, possibly causing some road blockages as well as we get some of the bigger trees to fall. And unfortunately, a lot of times they fall on power lines and will start to cause those power outages. It does take a little bit of time once this moves through to start to get the reports and also some of the power outages reports, but we'll get them right to you when we do see them pop in. Look at these wind speeds as we look off to the north here. So South Boston, that's in southeastern Washington County, Indiana. All along this, 70, 80 plus mile per hour winds will be possible. And the reason is the storms, they have an updraft and they have a downdraft. The downdraft just pulls those winds right down to the ground. And when we have these little Boeing segments right there, that's when the jet pushes out the rain. And you can see that's heading towards Scottsburg, Indiana.
A good update for us now. The Storm Prediction Center just put out their latest outlook here, and they have downgraded us to level 2 out of 5, and they've even cleared some of our southwestern counties out of this. We are in level 3 out of 5 for pretty much the entirety of our area, but as we head further into the afternoon, we're seeing this severe weather risk continue to diminish. Now, just because we are downgraded doesn't mean that things are safer, that we're out of the clear yet. It just means that the environment is not quite as favorable for us in our area. So we've now been downgraded to level 2 out of 5 for that severe weather risk today.
And this is regarding thunderstorms. This has nothing to do with the high wind warning that we have until 10 p.m. So yes, it'll be great to get the thunderstorms out of here. The tornado watch is until 5 p.m. That'll get canceled early as that squall line moves out of our area. By about 3:30, it'll move out of our viewing area. Then next, we're just going to keep an eye on the various wind gusts that could be over 50 to 60 plus miles per hour, continuing to give us some spotty tree and power line damage and make travel really difficult around the area with those winds coming in from the southwest. So Grayson County is now out of that tornado watch. You guys were never in it up around Seymour where the air was just more stable up that direction. I think we have been extremely fortunate so far with the amount of power this storm has, that it hasn't translated to more tornado warnings and more damage. And we haven't seen, we're starting to see a little development down here, Alden, and there's a really good chance that we're tapping into some strong winds with this. There's not a warning on it, but I would not be surprised if we do get some occasional areas of some wind damage here right through central Bullitt County, right along I-65. That's got to be difficult travel down through Lebanon Junction and towards Elizabethtown. This is all pushing to the east and northeast. So Hillview down to Gap in the Knob, Shepherdsville. This is going to be heading right towards Mount Washington and the northeastern sections of Bullitt County, and also heading towards Okolona. So this is a look at some of those wind speeds here as we look at the radar site currently around 40, 43. But I bet there will be some spikes of some stronger winds here and there as well. Just slide that radar just a little bit farther to the north into Jefferson County, into Metro Louisville. So you got some heavy rain crossing right over 265 and around Preston Highway, moving towards Beulah Church Road and Bardstown Road right there in Fern Creek. And then there you go. We've kind of had some pulsing in this southern end of that squall line. Certainly could be producing some damage. We've got the live look at our camera view here of the heavy rain coming down and the horizontal looking clouds as well. So gusty, blinding rain coming down right over I-65 and downtown. This camera view, I believe, is right there at Hospital Curve. This one is our U of L campus camera. Look at those raindrops going horizontal. Some really impressive wind speeds here downtown. So we do have the potential still right now. Stay inside if you're in Louisville because we could have some destructive straight line winds. It does not look like a significant tornado threat in Louisville right now, but some straight line winds will be possible. Let's take a look at the radar with that storm moving right over the top of Louisville right now. And again, pretty impressive. I mean, typically we see the rain go down, but the rain is going sideways right now. Alden is loading that up at this time. And so there's the arc we saw on our Futurecast models for the last couple of days. It is now on top of us. So heavy rain, heavy winds coming down right over Jeff. Is now passed over New Albany. The worst is over the Knobs. It is right on top of Jeffersonville, Clarksville, right over downtown, and now moving over the Highlands, Germantown, right over the airport, heading towards Audubon Park. It's going to be moving between I-65 to Waterson, all points in between, St. Matthews, Northfield, Linden. A heads up, you're going to get some gusty winds heading your direction, possibly in excess of 50 or 60 miles per hour. Very heavy rain, and the strong winds also moving over I-65 in Clark County, heading towards New Wash here very soon over Clark County. Heavy rain and some gusty winds. There's not a warning on this, thankfully, but still could have some isolated pockets of some wind damage here. Here's J-Town, Fern Creek. Again, there's Bardstown Road and Waterson Trail, it looks like right there, and then crossing over 265 and heading down. This would be Taylorsville Road, and heading in the southeastern sections of Jefferson County and eastern Bullitt County. Again, Mount Washington will mention you guys as that strong thunderstorm's heading your direction. So a couple little clusters moving through Metro Louisville, possibly tapping into the jet stream winds. That severe thunderstorm warning over downtown in Shively. The worst of it has passed over you guys in Shively, PRP, and Valley Station. It has now moved over your direction. Right up I-65, right up the corridor here, Sellersburg, up to Henryville, Scottsburg, and up to Seymour. That's going to be heading your direction very soon. As we mentioned, the air's a little more stable up here around Jackson County, so we may have very limited damage, thankfully, the farther north you go. The storms have now passed over much of Washington County, so southwest of Salem, you guys are now done with the tornado threat and done with that severe storm threat. We're done with it in Harrison County. We're in the clear now in Crawford and Orange and Lawrence counties. The worst of it is over for you guys. It will stay gusty for the rest of today, though. Very, very windy for the rest of today. The severe storm threat is over with in Perry and Du Bois County. It is over with in Meade and much of Hardin and out towards Breckenridge County, and we'll just kind of wait to see what reports we get in. Hopefully very limited reports now that this is moving over downtown Louisville. Also has some heavy rain crossing over I-65, Shepherdsville down to Elizabethtown. Really surprised, to be honest, Alden, that we're not seeing much development south of Louisville whatsoever. Like we've got the unstable air, we've got the front moving through. It just really hasn't initialized and developed that direction so far.
What I'm willing to bet, Ben, is that the earlier line of storms that we had down there probably ate up a lot of that fuel. And also remember earlier when we were having those reports of damage in the Paducah area, that seemed to be the most fuel-rich environment for some of those storms, and that area of fuel was just being moved northward. We're working on getting a couple of Metro cams set up for us, Trimark cameras set up so we can see how things are looking across the area. I am not seeing much in the way of traffic problems. That's the good news. However, on some of the medians in particular, you can see a little bit of a ponding and a little bit of, I guess you can almost call it rivering of sorts as that water moves down, particularly in any area that doesn't have much in the way of vegetation. I'm not... Okay, let me pull up our Scottsburg camera really quick. I got to scroll down here to it.
So it looks like this this would be our best expectation from the amount of power that this system has as far as a limited amount of damage that we've seen so far. We haven't had very many tornado warnings, so as far as best case scenario, in my opinion, this is it right now. We are not seeing extensive damage so far. We're still going to wait for some reports to come in. So here's a look at Scottsburg from the downtown water tower as the heavy rain begins to move into your direction. So this is right at Highway 56 and Interstate 65 up over parts of southern Indiana. So the storm moving into your direction so far. And really, the camera is not moving around very much, so I would say that the winds aren't too bad there just yet. We can look at some of the wind speeds in just a moment. And let's go back to radar and reflectivity and see what we're seeing around Metro Louisville as well. And we're going to see this move out, I'd say 3:30. We've only got about 15 minutes to 20 minutes before this is going to be zipping out of our viewing area. Heavy rain over Bardstown Road up towards Anchorage, moving right over I-65, over the hospitals right now, over Jeffersonville, up towards Charlestown. Some gusty winds will certainly be possible. Haven't had any significant reports of damage or widespread power outages yet.
Speaking of power outages,
yeah,
Ben, I literally just got a new update there. In Jefferson County, only 42. So we have been very fortunate here. Across the state of Kentucky, again, mainly to the west of I-65 in western Kentucky, now up to 94,000 power outages. Grayson County appears to be the most impacted community in our viewing area with 530 power outages. So not as high as it could be. And in the LG&E jurisdiction, which is fairly expansive outside of Metro Louisville, around 10,500 power outages. Lena, if you can pull up that statewide map, please. It's a really good visual to show us where most of those power outages are concentrated. And when she gets that pulled up, we'll show it to you. But 94,000 power outages across the state, and that's continuing to increase. You can see that biggest bullseye there appears to be closer to the Kentucky and Tennessee state line, also near the Paducah area as well. Otherwise, we are doing fairly okay here. Only Grayson County in our viewing area is seeing the highest number of power outages at 530. Also, if we can quickly switch to Max 3, I want to show you I-64 at Melwood Avenue. This is what I was referring to earlier in terms of some of that ponding, especially in the median areas where you don't have very much vegetation. This rain just really dumping down very quickly, and that's how you get flash flooding. So that's a look at I-64 at Melwood. Traffic moving fairly okay. And now as we take another look at radar again on Max 1, I'll stop this radar loop in, and this area of rain has actually grown a little bit as it moves through the heart of downtown and through Germantown, through Audubon Park, and into St. Matthews, Northfield area, also just across the river there as well. Jeffersontown, you're seeing some torrential downpours at the moment too.
And while you're at it, Alden, let's go ahead and go over to velocity and look at the how fast the raindrops are moving, because this is not far off the ground. I believe we're talking 70, 80 mile per hour winds just up in the atmosphere, and it doesn't take much. We don't need a thunderstorm. We just need raindrops going down through the cloud layer, and then sometimes you get, man, look at that, 117 mile per hour raindrop there, 113. The winds are just screaming. Right, we're just talking a few hundred feet off the ground. And so it doesn't take much to get that to the ground. You don't see this very often. This is why we're saying it has the power of a very strong tropical storm or even a Category 1 hurricane just off the ground. So hopefully we don't get much of this to translate to the surface. Otherwise, we're going to have big problems. If we do escape without much power outage or tree damage, we have narrowly escaped a lot of danger because western Kentucky, just to the west of our viewing area, dealing with nearly 100,000 power outages. Crews are going to be busy over western Kentucky. It would be amazing if we get away with very little in the way of power outages. And we'll just see what the reports come in here west of I-65. Again, it can take some time to get some of those reports.
And we are getting some new reports in right now. Let's see here, 59 mile per hour wind gust in Ireland, Indiana at that weather station. A non-thunderstorm wind gust in Grayson County at 3 o'clock, so about 20 minutes ago, of 64 miles per hour. Also seeing a power out in White Mills in parts of Radcliffe and areas between E-Town and Radcliffe, and there are fluctuations of power in Flaherty. So it looks like Hardin County now could be starting to see some power problems there. And as we've been saying, it's these non-thunderstorm wind gusts after the line has pushed through that are still posing a threat for us. So that's why we continue to see these power outage reports continue to increase. And I'll move radar to the south just to see if there's anything in E-Town.
And there wasn't much in Hardin County. I mean, exactly what you're saying, Alden, non-thunderstorm wind gusts that just from the power of that thunderstorm. So that's just an example of Hardin County. And we'll just kind of wait and see what happens here in Metro Louisville. There's that line. And it looks pretty strong. There's a few lightning strikes up here in Scott County. Notice how quickly that moved over Scottsburg and over I-65. It is now east of Henryville, over the Tisco area, heading towards New Washington, right over Charlestown. Here's eastern Clark County. Here's Jefferson County. So I'd say about 3:30 or just after that, it's out of the viewing area. So the timeline on this has been persistent, hasn't really changed much. And as we look a little bit farther to the south, once again, going to be moving into Oldham County. There you can see Goshen, LaGrange, some of this heavy rain's heading your direction. Couple bolts of lightning, not seeing a whole lot of that, but the winds within this and surrounding this heavy shower, this thunderstorm, in excess of 70, 80, 90, 100 miles per hour. We just don't want that to get to the ground. But if that happens, we're going to be dealing with some power outages and some tree damage reports here over parts of downtown Louisville and the surrounding metro Louisville area. So this is moving to the northeast as all of our activity has been doing. You can see it right over Northfield, St. Matthews, Linden. That's all heading your direction. Here is Anchorage dealing with some heavy rainfall right south to J-Town. There's look at the interchange at 64 and 265. Here's look at 71 and 265. So this is drifting toward the Oldham County area. Also, as we pull back just a little bit, it looks like it could be clipping parts of Shelby County here shortly. Yes, so you just had one heavy area of thunderstorms move out. That's that secondary round that's moving into Mount Washington now. And it's kind of been, it's fairly healthy. I mean, it's been moving off to the south. There's Nelson County into Cox's Creek. I mean, not overly impressed necessarily with those winds, although you may want to switch the radar site. You're probably fine there, actually checking out that radar site right there. Yeah, this is kind of not well organized necessarily, but still the potential of some isolated damaging wind gusts as this is starting to move into Spencer County. There you can see Nelson County as well. So this is like one of the southern ends. Let's back out and see if anything's developing farther to the south. Not much. Any of these sprinkles and these light rain showers still could be packing winds over 60 miles per hour, even without thunderstorms. The thunderstorm with the most lightning is in far eastern Scott and into Jefferson County, Indiana, moving east at about 70 miles per hour. So Hanover and Madison, you're up next for the heavy rainfall, the gusty winds, and New Washington, it's on your doorstep as well. It has now moved to the east of Henryville. We've got the main line out of the Borden Valley, even though there's a little shower out to the west of you around Pekin. Live view of the camera kind of rocking around a little bit more in Scottsburg. So it looks like the gusty winds are hitting it now. Yeah, bouncing up and down. You can see the antenna there on the bottom. So we're probably getting some 40, 50, 60 mile per hour winds. I'm guessing there just to the east of I-65 there at the exit 56 there in Scottsburg.
Ben, some more good news for us here when it comes to flooding. I asked if they had any more flash flood concerns given how heavy a lot of this rain has been coming down, and they are saying, thankfully, given how fast these storms are moving, they are not expecting more flash flooding. Of course, they're keeping an eye on it. We also have some flooding pictures, I believe. Our producer Lena reporting that some flooding pictures in J-Town near Tully Elementary. That's a look at them right now. So this is some of that flash flooding. It probably had already been flooded for a little while, but as mentioned, that's pretty significant right there. Ben, as you've been saying, especially with JCPS closed today and kids at home working remotely, please do not let them go outside and play near or in this water. You do not know how deep it is, nor can you tell necessarily how fast that water could be moving, and it is a prime way to be swept away, and we certainly do not want that for anyone, especially for any children. So stay far away from a lot of that, a lot of
Is this
those
Reed's
waterways.
camera here?
No, this is a video of a tree down in Pulaski County, Indiana. Okay. So this is just kind of giving us an idea of what we could be seeing later from any viewer storm reports of a lot of those trees down, blowing over on top of people's homes. And as you were saying earlier, Ben, the ground is so saturated, and these trees have been getting battered a lot lately by some of these high winds, especially older trees or trees that are dying. It's not necessarily going to take very much to pull them over. I want to go back to our Metro Cam because we have a really ominous view of of that storm up near Scott County right now as Christina San Juan and Sam Gabrielli move that camera around. Guys, point it back to the northeast a little bit, please. Back to the right some so we can see the back edge of that storm in other direction, please. Back to the right. So we can see some of those, the back edge of that storm that's there in Scott County near Scottsburg. You can really make out those sheets of rain that are falling down. And we also have a, that's actually not in our viewing area, but they have issued a couple new severe thunderstorm warnings out towards the Lexington region because the line might be gaining a little bit of strength there. So I'll bring
we'll wait for reports, but it will be amazing if our viewing area is just kind of getting skipped. Look at that, the explosion of energy just off to our west along I-75. Look at all these warnings right there. We had the warnings out west. They were canceled for the most part, and now they've exploded with the front edge. That was the initial line that moved through here and kind of zapped some of our energy. Western Kentucky, nearly 100,000 without power. And we'll just kind of wait and see as the reports funnel in for us as well. Still very healthy. We don't want to ignore it. There's no warning on it, but there's still the potential of some damaging winds along this line of thunderstorms here moving into Jefferson County, Indiana. There's Hanover, there's Madison, there's New Washington. And as we look down to the south and now moving into Oldham County, really gusty conditions, still waiting on to see if we'll have any significant power outages. Crestwood, heavy rainfall for you, eastern end of Jefferson County. That's going to be sliding into the Simpsonville area and the Bluegrass shops and into Shelbyville as well. So still moving pretty rapidly across the area, and we just can't ignore the fact that even behind these storms, we're going to have some wind gusts over 60 miles per hour. That's serious stuff. Like any other day, we said, hey, we're going to have 60-mile-an-hour winds. It would be a huge deal, but it seems like we've been just getting accustomed to these really windy days with all the wind advisories that we've had and even some of the high wind warnings. High wind warning does continue until 10 p.m. It's going to be difficult conditions to be out and about even once the storms pass on through. Off to the south we go. There's no warning on this, but some heavy rain moving into Spencer, and there's the very, very tail end down to Bardstown, which still could produce some gusty wind conditions.
This line right there, Ben, is primarily the cold front, I believe, that's starting to push through. And if Christina or Sam, if one of you can check out temperatures area-wide, I'd be curious to see if we're starting to see temperatures falling. If you can pull
you
up
could, Alden, you could try the Indiana-Kentucky map or the Ohio Valley map if you've got that nearby. And so there should be about a 20-degree drop in temperatures. We're 66 now, so mid to upper 60s. And then I'd say in about 2 or 3 hours we'll be down in the mid 40s with still wind gusts over 50. So a pretty significant drop in temperatures as that cold front moves on through our area. Let's take a look here down to 49 in Paducah. Look at that warm front and that cutoff of the unstable air. 54 in Madison and only 43 in Indianapolis. So very interesting storm system over the area. I mean, this is springtime, 70 in Springfield, Kentucky, and then you've got almost winter-like conditions, more like February or this time of the year, early March, up to the north. Wind speeds, I mean, we can handle it. 40 in Elizabethtown right now, 40 in Springfield, very gusty. The wind speeds, you can see how tightly that's wrapped right there. There's the center of the low-pressure storm system. As that center moves to the northeast, these winds will start to pick up even more. Actually, Alden, we haven't seen it in a while. If you want to put up the Futurecast wind gust speeds, this might surprise you that without any thunderstorms, the wind speeds that we could still see for the rest of this afternoon and into the evening time. So this is now the storms are gone, and we still could see wind speeds up around 60 miles per hour. This is 6:30 p.m. Still very, very windy, strong winds, and still could cause some damage to some trees and some power out and some power lines as well. Does it go far enough when we see them finally start to diminish? We need that storm system to pull away. So now midnight, 30-mile-per-hour winds. And then this is the calm stuff right here. So tomorrow morning around sunrise for the Triple Crown of running 5K, It might still be a little bit breezy. It looks like it'll be in the upper 30s and 40s, but the winds are going to diminish. There'll be no rain for the first leg of the Triple Crown of running, in very nice conditions if you have any plans for Saturday afternoon. So things after midnight will start to really calm down, but up until midnight, it's still going to be really gusty out there.
Ben, I have new power outage numbers for you. I'm going to read those off to you, and then Lena Duncan is also going to talk to you very quickly in your ear as I put Max H2 radar back up here. So across the state of Kentucky, over 111,000 power outages, and the LG&E jurisdiction, 17,510. Grayson County still 530, and Jefferson County now we have power outages over 5,000. And in Hardin County, we now have power outages numbering just under 1,000 at 822. So as a reminder, in the event that you do lose power, you can still watch us here at WHAS 11. We are streaming live on YouTube right now. We are streaming on Facebook. You can also watch us on our free WHAS 11 app, as well as Roku and Fire TV. So if you lose power, you still have multiple ways of getting a hold of us. But again, that's over 111 power outages across Kentucky, mainly in western Kentucky, and LG&E's area, 17,510. If we could pull up that map, please, actually.
How much was that for Metro Louisville?
5,119.
I mean, that went up very quickly from 15.
Correct.
So as that,
what I'm willing to bet is as that line of very heavy rain we were looking at not too long ago pushed through, I have a feeling that's where a lot of that came from. So
no doubt. I mean, you were pointing it out when we were looking at the velocity. If you want to go back to that, that the jet stream is right over the top of us. So we were seeing wind speeds of 100 miles per hour right off the deck, right above the trees. So we're very close to the radar. So we're only maybe a few hundred feet off the ground, still 78 miles per hour, 87, 75. This is going to cause some tree damage. Even though there's not a warning on it, it's going to be more perhaps isolated, but there's still a chance that these showers are just like a funnel, getting those winds right down to the ground and causing some destruction, unfortunately, in those power outages. So it was like 20 minutes ago, we had 15 without power in Louisville. Now we're up to 5,000. And you said over 100,000 without power in the western half of Kentucky?
Just statewide in general. And I punched up our wind gust map again because we're starting to see more wind gusts. Yes, seeing a report of 70 mile per hour non-thunderstorm wind gusts in Hardin County near Cecilia. Wow. Also in off toward Lexington, that's out of our area, of course. Non-thunderstorm wind gust of 70 miles per hour. Also seeing a new damage report coming in out of Paoli in Orange County of trees down on 37 South near Paoli. I'm assuming that's State Road 37, and other reports of trees down across the county as well. So this is what we are going to continue to emphasize. Even though the rain is done, don't let that lull you into a false sense of security, because we're still seeing these extremely high wind gusts approaching 70 miles per hour, and these power outages continue to ramp up. So it would be a good idea to go ahead and charge your electronic devices.
Alden, this is what I meant about comparing it to Hurricane Ike in 2008. This is like the third punch that we're getting today. Had some flash flooding over the northern half of the area earlier. We had round 1 that did some isolated damage. Round 2 was the squall line we've been tracking. This is kind of round 3, I guess you call it. This is just low-level jet energy. This is not thunderstorm. This is the core of the high wind warning that we're going to have. Look at this purple color right here. So you said Hardin County had a 70 gust. That's got to be even more. So watch out. 55 gust. Elizabethtown, nearly 60 in Munfordville. Anywhere near 60 can pull a roof off a barn, do shed damage, topple trees, cause power outages. So we're just not done yet. 53 gust in Louisville. That's not with a thunderstorm. Really impressive stuff. And yes, this will be moving into parts of southern Indiana. It's not very often we just track air, Alden. We're just tracking air flowing very fast. A very rare event for us.
And even though we're talking about these wind gusts, I showed you earlier, and I'll bring it up again right now. Those are the winds gusting up to 70 miles per hour, but we still have sustained wind speeds of over 40. So this is the air just blowing at a steady pace at 42 miles per hour in E-Town, and it's to our southwest where we're seeing those highest wind speeds at the moment. Those are continuing to make their way to the northeast, so eventually there is a good chance we could see those 60 up to 70 mile per hour wind gusts here in Metro Louisville. So we're going to have to keep a very close eye on those power outages because they have increased here in the metro. We could continue to see those power outages increase here in Metro Louisville as we start to get those 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts making their way into the area. I'm also seeing a new report here out of Harrison County, Indiana. This is near North New Middle, 3 miles to the north of New Middletown, coming in from 247. So this is a bit of a delayed report. A 100-year-old maple tree uprooted from thunderstorm winds. Also a new storm report coming in from the airport here in Metro Louisville of a non-thunderstorm wind gust of 60 miles per hour. So we're finally starting to, I literally just said it, seeing these 60 to 70 mile per hour wind speeds and wind gusts making their way through the metro area outside of any thunderstorms. So we're going to have to keep a very close eye on potential updated power outages. In fact, Lena, our producer, if you could find me some new power outage numbers, if you have them, please, and text those to me. That would be very...
We just got a viewer message out of E-Town of no power off Highway 210. So we're already seeing that in E-Town too, of no power.
Okay, that was meteorologist Sam Gabrielli here off screen to my right reporting. What was that again?
Highway 210, Elizabethtown. So we've got Storm Team meteorologist Sam Gabrielli and Christina San Juan. They've been streaming and getting reports. And if you guys get any reports, send them to Alden, send them to me, and then we'll pass them along. So yes, we had the squall line move through. That caused some issues. Now next is just fast flowing air, a rare wind event, kind of like, hopefully not as bad, but kind of like what, if you remember 15 years ago, the remnants of Hurricane Ike. Been talking about how this has remnant hurricane energy. This is what we're dealing with here. So the wind gusts, really, really impressive. So this is kind of the leading edge of the low-level jet core right here. We're talking over 100,000 without power over Kentucky, over western Kentucky. That is going to be moving right over the top of us. This is incredible amount of air mass just right over the top of us, fast flowing air because of the strength of the low pressure system. Notice this, Alden. Here is the center of the core of the low pressure system right over the Wabash Valley. And this is the strongest. There's probably very light winds right in the middle, kind of like a hurricane. This is kind of the eye of the storm right there. And then the strongest part of it is on the southeast side. That's what we have moving in. And did you notice the cameras earlier? We had some sunshine. That also acts like a channel to get those strong winds down on the ground. Go ahead. I know you're getting a lot of reports in.
A lot of reports, and mentioning the center of that low pressure, this is more so for our reference. The center pressure of that that storm system, is 978 millibars. That is near the all-time record low for Metro Louisville that was experienced with Hurricane Ike of 971. Also looks like we just got a new severe thunderstorm warning issued. Let's see where that is exactly as radar is loading up here. This is for Henry, Oldham, Shelby, and Trimble County. So it was that little area of thunderstorms that was moving through the metro area not too long ago. Yeah. Mentioning wind speeds of 70 miles per hour possible, not much in the way of hail, and also seeing a report of a funnel cloud reported over this storm in Oldham County. So we probably do have the potential for some quick spin up. It's moving, I'll get a track on this here in just a second. It's moving to the northeast at 60 miles per hour. So I'll get a track on that. Thankfully, this will be putting it out of our viewing area relatively quickly. Yeah, so
Newcastle, you want to be seeking shelter. Eminence, all of Henry County pretty much, northeastern Oldham County. I would stay inside most certainly, also in Trimble County around Bedford and Carroll County as well. Even though there's that warning there, there's a really good chance the winds are just as strong up here as well, and even maybe a little bit farther south into Shelby County. Anywhere that if you're getting rain, just bet that right ahead of it and even behind it, you could have some destructive winds. So this severe thunderstorm warning heading towards Newcastle now, Worthville, VV, Indiana at 3:55 into New Liberty at around 4 o'clock. That puts it out of our viewing area and up towards the Cincinnati market. So beware here in Trimble County. You've got some very strong winds that are going to be moving over your area. They just moved over the bulk, the majority of Oldham County. So pretty soon, it's hard to say Alden, you're in the clear after the storms move through, because then we have just the high wind warning stuff that we're going to have through the rest of this afternoon to the evening time, continuing to add up some of the power outages. Again, we went from like 15 power outages to over 5,000. In Louisville, I'm not sure if that's climbed since about 5 minutes ago. We checked that. We'll check back on some of those power outages. So this is our U of L Health
numbers right now, actually.
Yeah, go ahead.
126,500 in the state. In LG and E's area, 17,500. Waiting to get back some updated numbers for Metro Louisville specifically. I also punched up our MetroCam because we have some very scary looking clouds out there right now, and you can also see just how dramatically the cameras are shaking as we start to get those exceptionally high wind speeds moving through. Here you can see a semi moving along there at the bottom of your screen. This is not good weather for high profile vehicles.
I wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, if some of those semis get knocked off the road. So to give you some perspective, there was about 600,000 out without power in 2008, September 14th, when Hurricane Ike moved through. That was the most on record at that time. And now we've got 125,000 without power in Kentucky. So, and this is just kind of halfway through this event so far. So this is very significant what we're talking about here. We're not talking about a lot of tornado warnings, and that really doesn't matter. Thankfully, we don't have tornado warnings, but we're still going to have a lot of impacts from this. There's going to be a lot of folks in the dark tonight that are not going to have power. Hopefully, you've got generators, some friends maybe that you'll be able to stay with, but we're going to have a lot of folks without power. This is a live view here with our Louisville Metro cam, our Hughes and Coleman cam, looking from on top of Jewish Hospital Curve, looking out towards our direction off to the southwestern sky. So that's the last edge of the squall line. Once that passes through, we'll see the end of the tornado watch, which we've been talking about all day. It would likely be canceled about an hour early. So here's the current severe thunderstorm warning, the one that we have in our viewing area for Henry County. Rough stuff heading over 421 in Newcastle up towards Bedford. I would just stay inside until that can pass on through. And in towards Carroll County, you've got some very strong winds heading your direction as well. If you want to pause and head towards velocity mode and see how fast those raindrops are moving, yeah, it's going to be very fast. This is probably over 70, 80, 90 miles per hour. Now, once this is getting this far away from the radar site, we're talking probably about 1,000 to 2,000 feet up in the air, but still you're connecting to the jet stream with those showers. 75 winds up top here, 77 with the pixels right here near Newcastle. So right over the top of you guys here in Newcastle over to Campbellsburg up I-71. Here's Bedford, Trimble County. Very, very strong winds. You're likely going to have power outages as well. Same situation. So yes, it takes sometimes a good half hour to get the reports in once it moves through. We're starting to get those reports in here in Metro Louisville and points out to the west.
And speaking of, we're up to just over 8,000 power outages here in Metro Louisville.
Continuing to climb. New warning that continues upstream into Carroll County and in towards VV, Indiana, over the river there, and out towards the Williamstown area up I-75. So that's going to pull it away from our viewing area. So that will be the last of severe thunderstorm threats for today and the last of thunderstorms once that moves out of Henry County through Carroll County as well. Again, we're seeing some wind speeds not far off the ground, 70, 80, maybe even 90 miles per hour. So Madison, very strong winds around you, over towards Trimble County and in towards Henry County as well. The worst of the severe weather threat is now away from you in Oldham County. That is over with. But you're still going to have gusty winds for the rest of today.
They also just canceled that severe thunderstorm warning in Oldham and in Shelby counties. However, the weather sensor at Muhammad Ali International Airport reporting a gust up to 62 knots. You do the math there, that's a 65, gust of 71 miles per hour. So I'll bring up that.
That's without thunderstorms.
Correct. Yep, this is all without thunderstorms.
So the peak gust, I keep going back to it because a lot of people remember during the remnants of Ike was 75 miles per hour in sustained winds over 50 for 2 hours. We could have these gusts going on for hours this evening. So still a serious situation behind the storms. Look at that. Remember that purple color, Alden, was about right here about 20 minutes ago. This is the core of the jet behind this really strong storm system. Here's the center of low pressure. It is not very often we track non-thunderstorm wind gusts, but we're getting hurricane force, near hurricane force wind gusts from not thunderstorms, just fast flowing air because of how strong this area of low pressure. This is one of the strongest storm systems that has crossed the Ohio Valley in our region this time of year and really ever. Incredible. We're going to see the wind gusts going up. I mean, that looks like that is the core of it right there. And it might not be until after sunset that we see the winds get down to kind of a tolerable, safe level. And then after midnight before they really start to diminish and we're back to kind of sigh of relief type stuff. So
here's
again,
a look at that Futurecast map there, Ben. So it's showing those very high wind gusts that we just saw live reported fairly accurately here in this model. So as we take it through the next few hours, this is 7 o'clock, still seeing wind speeds up to 50 to 60 miles per hour.
Incredible.
And it's not going to be until, as you were saying, after midnight that we start to see them become a little bit more tolerable, which is kind of funny to say because on any other normal given weather day, a wind gust of 30 miles per hour is pretty significant. But even as we get closer to sunrise tomorrow morning, this is still 3:30, seeing those winds gusting up to 20 miles per hour. The good news is that after sunrise tomorrow, those wind speeds are going to be gone and you're going to walk outside. It's going to seem really quiet because you don't have that wind howling across, through your ears and over your windows.
let's talk wind chill. We're going to be in the 30s tonight and it's going to be breezy. So it's just a crazy system. Now let's think about this once again. This 3:46 p.m. Alden just showed you the wind gusts that are going to continue to be strong all the way through sunset. That means the continuation of some tree damage and some power outages. And this is just a really prolonged wind event. Good news, we can check one thing off the list. The tornado threat, the severe thunderstorm threat, that's gone. The flash flooding threat is going to be gone. We still need to watch out near rivers, creeks, and streams and low-lying areas. Some of the rivers are still going to slowly rise as the water basins fill up. We need to keep the kids away from playing around any of the rushing water, especially into the weekend. It can take a day or two for the rivers to rise. That is a very dangerous situation, any flooding whatsoever.
Ben, I have a quick...
So what's left, for my last point here, is the strong winds with the high wind warning until 10 p.m. Yeah, Alden?
I have a quick storm report here out of Meade County. Several power outages, trees down across the road all over the county, so countywide tree downs, multiple lines down, multiple power poles snapped, and possible damage to several residences and businesses that are currently still being reported. As for the river levels that you were mentioning, I'm going to quickly pop up here to see if maybe, so take this full here. This is the delay in that heavy rain. So right now, the McAlpin lower river gauge is at 29.5 feet, which is pretty normal, but we're going to see it rise to 43 feet over the next couple of days. So this is a fascinating storm system in the sense that we're still going to be feeling the impacts from it even through the weekend. Even if the air might be quiet, we're still going to have some problems going on down at the ground. And in this case, it would be in the river basins and staying fairly elevated through the early part of next week. So as you head back into work next week, or maybe if you live near the river, you're going to notice those elevated river levels. And that's all going to be a result of the rain that we're currently seeing right now.
Yeah, this is a multifaceted storm. Let's go back to those gusts, Alden. I think we had an update, the current gust, not the Futurecast gust. And it looks like down towards Munfordville, near the core there, we've got a 64 mile per hour wind gust. Now, the National Weather Service would normally issue a severe thunderstorm warning if a wind gust got up to 60 because it can do damage to your property, to the trees, and cause power outages. This is just fast flowing air with no thunderstorms whatsoever. And we just had a gust up to around 70 at Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. So unfortunately, I think those numbers of the power outages are going to continue to rise. This is a really interesting graphic just because it shows the core of the wind speeds, and we need to get that out of here before we can stop the power outages problem, basically. And the crews that need to go out and work on the power poles and the lines that are down, just not good conditions, unfortunately, for those crews.
Ben, I'm going to pull this up.
There's the core of that area of low pressure. Yeah.
I'm going to pull this up more so for your sake. This is analysis of that low-level jet that we're talking about. That purple shade right there is the core of what you've been calling the low-level jet, and you've been talking about this being like a hurricane. Well, there's your eye, in a sense,
right there,
where you have very low wind speeds. That's
like Vincennes, Indiana, right there. Here's Evansville. Louisville's right here, and this is that core of so this is a big air mass right here of strong winds, and that's going to transport that way. And we just need this storm to track out of here, and then we'll get the destructive winds out of here. But again, it's just a reminder, that's the most recent thing that we can think of to relate to is the destructive winds that we got with the remnants of Hurricane Ike, again, right before the Ryder Cup, September 14th, 2008. So again, non-thunderstorm wind gusts are a problem. If we could take a look at any of the cameras, I'm curious if we're getting sunshine. Sunshine's a bad thing, not because of thunderstorms, but because it can create currents of air and get those winds down to the ground, unfortunately. And we keep mixing up the air, and we bring those gusts down to the ground. So we do have bright spots. We're going to continue to have these channels of air coming down to the ground. You can see the trees here closely. They're rocking and rolling. The camera's rocking. Hopefully the semis can handle this, especially on those east and west routes, because a lot of this airflow is coming in from the southwest. It would be difficult travel for all those semi drivers. And of course, our friends that work at UPS and work on ground travel, hope they're staying very safe out there as well. So live look at the very shape. This is a very stable, this is one of our most stable cameras. It's in a casing, and it is shaking on a very stable building at U of L as we look off to the north. So the clouds are just racing across the sky. Be very careful if you're outside around trees, and you got to watch out. Just stay away from power lines that might be down. There you can see more of that sunshine right behind that line of storms that move through Oldham County. So there's been a clearing, and that just again allows that strong low-level jet to get down to the ground. Our Galt House camera also shaking. So we'll continue to see the power outages add up, ripples on the Ohio River. We're going to stay with you for another 5 minutes. We're going to take a short break before we start up WHS 11 News at 4. Interesting sky conditions. It's just kind of a reminder of Category 1 or strong tropical storm force winds. You can see it just rippling there across the Ohio River as we look over the Locken Dam, and it's just a different situation. It's a system that we don't get around these parts very often because of how strong those winds are. 61 mile per hour wind there in Munfordville right now, and 53 in Louisville. Let's go back to radar. It's been a little while. We still have that severe thunderstorm warning up in Carroll County. I know it's been kind of rough up here for you guys. I know that's just off to the northeast of Louisville. So we just have a couple sprinkles there over Oldham County. Here's the heaviest rain right over Newcastle, over Carroll County, over Carrollton, just to the north of Bedford. There's 421, Milton-Madison Bridge right there. This is going to be heading out of our viewing area, the heavy rainfall. And next, throughout our newscast here over the next 2.5 hours, we're just going to be talking about where we're seeing damage, what the power outages are. Going to be thousands without power. Just about a half hour, 45 minutes ago, we had 15 without power in Louisville, and now it's up to over 8,000. And I think we're maybe closing in on 150,000 without power in the state of Kentucky. It's a very significant power outage storm that we're dealing with here in Kentuckiana. So stay in your place of shelter in Carroll County. Very strong winds in excess of 60, 70 miles per hour. Same here in Henry County. It's not going to take long for that to move out, but we still have the jet to get through here, and that's still going to cause some problems here as we have that high wind warning continuing until 10 p.m. Wind advisory goes until, is it 1 a.m. still, Alden?
Yes, I believe so. I have not checked. I have honestly not seen any.
It's been the least of our worries, the wind advisory, but once the high wind warning cancels at 10, I believe the wind advisory will continue on until maybe a little bit after midnight. So it's going to stay breezy out there. And so let's go ahead and back on out. Again, this severe thunderstorm warning won't last too much longer. Daily rainfall record amount of rainfall here in Louisville. There have been some reports of over 4 inches. So watch out for any raging waters here in the hollers and hills and the valleys of southern Indiana, where all that water is going to fill up and also cause the Ohio River to rise a bit over the next several days. Rain hasn't been as significant as expected off to the southeast, about an inch in Campbellsville today, almost 2 inches in Elizabethtown. Want to just bring up the current conditions, Alden, for Louisville Metro at Louisville Muhammad Ali International with our current view. I wonder if it'll show you those wind gusts and sustained winds. And we'll see what we're at right now. So this is a live view out there now. Look at that, 70 degrees, spring-like conditions, wind gust at 53. We did have one wind gust blow through at about 70 a few minutes ago, sustained winds at around 30 miles per hour. So with the remnants of Ike, we had sustained winds up around 50 and gusts around 70. It's not a whole lot different, maybe just a little bit less powerful than what we saw with the remnants of Hurricane Ike.
And we're still getting reports of almost 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts in multiple locations across our viewing area, primarily to the south. So there is still time for those wind gusts to make their way toward us, especially if we continue to see any sunshine here with the days getting longer as well. That just kind of gives that wind speed a little bit more extra time. We're going to be with you here for one more minute before we take that quick break. I just got some power update reports for you across the state. In Kentucky, 151,000 are without power, and the LG&E coverage area, just under 56,000, and in Metro Louisville, about 31,000 people are now without power. So even though these storms are gone, we still have these extremely high wind gusts that are going to be causing problems, and I keep seeing reports coming in of multiple trees down and power lines down across the entire viewing area. So that's a quick little update for you here. We are going to be taking a quick break here within the next 20 seconds. We're going to be back in about 3 minutes to bring you coverage of WHAS 11 News at 4 o'clock, and we'll continue to provide you with some of those power updates. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 3 minutes.